In this video, you'll build the Facebook Web 3.0 dApp with Next.js. You'll style this app using Tailwind CSS. So why I'm so excited about this particular project specifically is because we've been doing all of our projects on the Ethereum network. This is going to be our first project on the Solana network. Why I like Solana a lot is because they have the fastest user experience. Their user experience is phenomenal. The transactions are super cheap. I mean, something that'll cost you $100 or $200 in Ethereum on Solana will cost you 1 cent or 2 cents. So it's literally the cheapest network. And then it's very, very fast. And recently I even had Justin Khan on, who was the founder of Twitch. He built his own gaming marketplace using Solana because it has a wonderful user experience. Why this is one of my favorite builds is your data is actually going to be stored on chain. So we're not going to need a backend for this. We're going to be storing data on the blockchain. You'll learn how to create your own program on the Solana blockchain using Rust framework called Anchor. So in other words, basically you'll be building a fully decentralized database using Solana. You'll be using Cargo to compile and deploy your smart contract. Think of Cargo like hard hat. We'll use Phantom Wallet to authenticate the users that actually sign up onto this app. We'll use a Solana Web3 package to interact with our smart contract and the blockchain. We'll use the context API inside of React.js to store and manage our state at any given point. We'll use Sanity as our database to store our users and their profiles. You'll be able to view and confirm these transactions over on the Solana Explorer to verify that they are indeed 100% real. We'll then deploy this app using Netlify and host your Facebook Web 3.0 blockchain app onto the internet. Woo. With that said, I hope you're excited. This is going to be one of the best blockchain dApps that are out there on the internet. Right before we continue, please do me a huge favor. Smash that like button, turn it blue or white or whatever YouTube color it turns into. We want to break 1,000 likes so that I could keep my job, and Lance, who is going to also help you out as one of the instructors of this build, he gets to keep his job. With that said, let's get right into it. Right before we get started and start coding, I just want to let you know that we're doing a collab with BuildSpace, which is one of the best Web3 education platforms in the world. And you guys are going to be getting an NFT that proves you completed this project, and it's going to be in collab with BuildSpace and Clever Programmer, and it's going to look sick. BuildSpace also has an incredible community of Web3 developers who you can learn together with in their Discord, and they're very active. Last but not least, BuildSpace is also helping new Web3 developers like yourself get matched up with top tier companies like Adidas or Alchemy for premium high contracts. And I'm talking about $10,000 to $20,000 a month contracts, and their vision is amazing. I even met their CEO, Farza, and he's just an incredible, amazing human being. So I'm really excited about this collab. And the best part for you guys, it's completely free. All you have to do is just go down below, click the link in the description. It's going to take you to a landing page, and then it's going to ask you to connect your wallet. And once you connect your wallet, you're good to go. And then when you do this build and you complete it, that wallet will be able to verify you did it. You'll get your own NFT, and you'll get the entire community and everything that goes with it. Okay, so again, it's completely free. Go ahead, sign up for that right now. And with that said, let's just jump right into the video. All right, so let's just demo this app right now. So I hope it blows your mind. So over here, I can see that I'm on my Facebook page. Boom, that's all good. I can also go ahead and connect my wallet. So I'm going to go ahead, click that, and connect it with my Phantom wallet. Boom. Okay, beautiful. Now that my wallet is connected, I'm logged in, and now I'm actually inside of the app. So now you can see it has given me image at the top, and I have a username, and I can go ahead and write a post on this Solana blockchain app. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and type that in. Beautiful. It's posting. So let's give it a few seconds, because remember, this is being stored on the blockchain, so it can take a little bit of time for it to show up. So we'll just wait for a couple of seconds. Boom. Looks like it's good to go. It's showing up. That's awesome. Why this is so freaking crazy is that is on the blockchain. That is not a database. That is on the decentralized blockchain. That's freaking insane. You can even reply to that comment. So let's go ahead, click reply. So click reply. Let's add in a reply. Boom. Let's hit enter. Let's wait for that reply to go through. Boom. Look at that. That reply just went through. That reply is also stored onto the blockchain. There's no server side. There are no databases. That's the freaking crazy part. All of this information is stored on decentralized nodes. It's literally stored on the Solana blockchain. That's just, to me, one of the coolest freaking things, and it can't be deleted or removed. It's permanently out there. So, you know, be careful what you post on there, because it won't ever go away. You won't be able to delete it. With that said, that's the demo of the app. I think this would be great for your portfolio and and for your resume. So when you build this out, definitely put it on there. You know, if you go and especially try to apply to Solana jobs or Rust jobs and they're looking for a lot of Solana engineers, this would definitely help you a lot. With that said, we're now going to start coding it up. Let's go. All right, let's start coding this up. I'm going to open up my command line. Whoops, it looks a little bit too big, so we're going to make it a little bit smaller. That's what she said. Just kidding. Here we go. So I'm going to go npx create next, and I'm going to pass it this e flag, and I'm going to say with Tailwind CSS, and the project, we're going to name it Facebook Solana. Let's hit enter, and let's wait for this project to completely install. Okay. And then once this project is installed, what I can do is I can go ahead and open this project up. All right, so let's do ls. So I'm going to cd into this project. So I'm just going to say cd Facebook Solana, just like this. Now I'm here, and I'm just going to go ahead and do code and do period. Okay, and that's going to open this up in Visual Studio Code. If you don't have this code period functionality, just open up your Visual Studio Code, and you can open it up manually as well. And I'll show you that in just a second. So my Visual Studio Code has opened up right here. Okay, so what you could do is if you couldn't open it up in that cool way, you could just hit open and then find where you put this file. All right, and then you can just, so see in here, Qazi, Facebook Solana, and you can just hit open. So that's another way of doing it. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure our app and everything is running. So I'm going to go ahead to my index file here and hit Command J, and I will simply just do yarn dev here, and that will start up the server. And then we're just going to go ahead on the right hand side, open up Chrome so we can see it. Okay, and let's go to our localhost 3000, and boom, there you go. Our server and our app is up and running. I'm going to make this 1/3 and make this 2/3 of the screen so you guys can see the code and the app better. So this is our just basic setup to just get started and see the app running. Now we're going to start setting up all of the things that we need, like Sanity, Netlify, Solana. And then once we're done setting up that whole thing, we're then going to start jumping in, coding and hacking this app up. So I'm excited. I'll see you there in a second. All right, so let's go ahead and install Phantom Wallet. This is going to be very important. We're going to need that for the rest of the build. Any Solana related thing that you're going to need to do, you're going to need to use Phantom. So let's just install it, okay, and get it over with. All right, Phantom Wallet. It's the most beautiful. The UI UX of this is like 100 times better than anything I've seen. I personally like this a lot more than MetaMask, and yeah, just a wonderful experience. And then their app is phenomenal too, as you can see here. So just go here and install their Chrome app, and you can also download this on your iOS device as well. So let's hit download, and then we'll scroll down here. It says Phantom for desktop, and since I'm on Chrome, I'm gonna go ahead and hit Chrome here, install. Okay, so this came up. We're gonna hit add to Chrome, and we're gonna say add extension. All right, here we go. Crypto wallet reimagined. Let's assume you don't have a wallet yet, so let's just hit create new wallet. We're gonna set our password. We're going to say, I agree to the terms and service. Here's our secret recovery phrase, which you should not show to anybody, because then anybody can get your wallet. So really bad. Do not show it to anybody. Keep it safe. Okay. Put it in a Dashlane type of app, or put it in a notes app and lock that notes so you can always recover your wallet. I'm going to show it because I'm just making a dummy wallet here, so it doesn't matter. And then just go ahead and say, I saved my secret recovery phrase, hit continue. Okay. And then you can open it up with this keyboard shortcut, Option Shift P. Okay, so we're done. That's it. Now we should have a Phantom wallet. Where is it? It's in our extensions right there. We're going to pin it, so it's top here. So now I can actually just click this Phantom wallet here, and it should basically show that you have $0 worth of anything in here, and your wallet is up and running. You can send this wallet address to somebody. You can actually send Solana to this, you know, receive Solana or whatever you want here. You can also buy things like USDC. If you buy NFTs, they're going to go in your collectibles here. So it's pretty freaking awesome wallet, and you can create new wallets too and name them. But for now, we're just going to leave this as is. This is just part of a setup, and congratulations, you've installed Phantom. All right, so one more thing we're going to do here with our wallet is settings at the bottom right. So right there, hit settings, and then scroll down. We're going to go over change network. So let's click that, and we're going to choose DevNet here. So let's go ahead and select DevNet. So we're going to be kind of in developer mode, okay? So just make sure you're on DevNet and then you should be good. All right, and the next thing we're going to do, so on DevNet, you're not going to be dealing with real money, you're going to be dealing with fake money, okay? And that's perfect for when you're developing in test mode because you don't want to be using real money yet. We're also going to go to solfaucet.com here, and here we're going to get our wallet address. So I'm going to go ahead, copy this wallet address, I'm going to paste it, and basically, let's just say I want like, I don't know, 12 Sol to my DevNet. So I'm going to say 12, and I'm going to choose DevNet here. Oh, it says too large. No problem. Let's go ahead, pick 9. Let's go ahead and hit DevNet. Successful airdrop, successfully dropped. And was it? So I'm imagining that we'll soon see it here. Okay. So it's probably going to take like between 10 to 20 seconds. And then it should pop up and we should have it. Okay. So let's keep an eye out on that. You know what? While I'm here, I might as well just send one more and view this transaction on Solana just to see on Sol Explorer takes for this. So the second one was apparently successful. Perfect. Do we have it yet? So while I was waiting, because it was taking too long, I just decided to go ahead, send myself like 2 airdrop and then hit DevNet. And then that actually came to my wallet pretty quickly. So now I have 2 and now I have 4. So like when I was sending myself the big chunks, it wasn't coming through. But when I send myself like small amounts, it actually comes through like almost instantaneously, which is kind of nuts. But yeah, so now we have 4 Sol, $534, just more than enough to do what we need to do. We're not going to need that much really, but this should be a good start. Now we're up to 6 Sol. So just keep sending yourself 2s if the 9s and the 10s or the 7s are not working for you, okay? With that said, now your Phantom wallet is set up. It's on the DevNet and you have money to play with. So this is great. Our wallet is not set up. Let's move on. All right, now what we're going to get ready to do is we're going to get ready to deploy this app, and we're going to deploy it with Netlify. So we're just going to set that up. Even though we're going to deploy it later, we're just going to finish doing the setup right now. So what I want you to do is click the link in the description below that we have for Netlify. Okay, and we'll pop up the link on the screen here as well so you could see it. So basically just go to ntl.fyi/clever, hit enter. Okay, now bring you to this page, which is Netlify's landing page. Okay, and then what I want you to do is just simply go ahead and hit get started for free and then just sign up. Okay, so if you have GitHub, I like to just sign up with GitHub. You can also sign up with email and it'll ask you for your username and password. Put that in. You can use this method for future logins. So you can click that. And for me, because I have a mobile app on GitHub, it sent me a request and notification on my phone. So I'm going to go ahead and authorize the app with 2-factor authentication with the GitHub app on my mobile phone. Now I'm simply just going to choose approve here on my app. And look at that. Boom. I am absolutely invisible and blurred out of my freaking mind. I apologize about that. And we're logged into Netlify, right? So I'm on the Netlify homepage. Everything looks beautiful and ready to go. I am completely set up to rock and roll. So this we'll come back to later. So in terms of the basic bare bones setup for Netlify, we are done right now.
What's up guys, Lance from the future here, and I wanted to walk you guys through on how to set up and install Sanity. So you guys just finished installing Phantom. What you guys need to do next, after you have your whole Next app and Tailwind installed, you want to also make sure you make a new folder. You also want to make sure you make a new folder within your project, and you want a studio. The studio folder is where our Sanity is going to be initialized. So what you want to do next is cd into the studio and head over to sanity.io/cleverprogrammer so that you can use their nice code. So I have that over here. Head over to this website. What you'll see is these 2 instructions to get the free boosted plan. And all you have to do is just copy this. So for me, I already have the Sanity CLI tool installed. All we need to do now is just copy this coupon, Sanity init/coupon clever programmer. If you do that, you get the free boosted plan. Okay. Awesome. So I'm gonna put that into the terminal, hit enter. Awesome. I already have a Sanity account, and I'm gonna call my project Amazon Clone Blockchain. Wait, sorry, not Amazon. I'm gonna call my project Facebook Clone Blockchain. Go ahead and hit enter. We can use the default data. That's our project output, and we can select clean project with no predefined. All right, there we go. It looks like it's done. It's done initializing. I think if I log in, just gonna log in real quick. There it is. You can see the Facebook Clone Blockchain because we have Sanity set up and we're good to go. All you need to do now is to run our studio. You can just say Sanity start. Okay, so now it's done. Whenever time you want to look at your Sanity studio, all you have to do is just go to localhost and go, instead of 3000, it's going to be 333. This is the port that they use. And if you connect to it, Google, awesome, cool. And it's empty, which makes sense. So let's actually take this moment to set up those schemas. So I'm gonna go into the studio folder. As you can see, we have all the files now that it's initialized. What we need to do is go into your schemas.js. And if you look here, let's go ahead and clean a lot of these comments out. Cool, so now it's cleaned out. The idea here is to create the actual user schema and then add it in this array. So what does that mean? We're gonna have to make a new file in this folder and say user schema.js. Yeah, user schema.js. Okay, cool. And to set up your own schema, you can say export const the name of it and set it equal to an object. And remember, this is the schema file for a user. So that means the name of this will be users. The type will be just document. Title can be users. That will be, and here are the fields, or essentially the, what we'll call it, like the keys of the object or the document. So I'll say fields here. And the first thing that we want to keep track of when we're talking about a user document is going to be the name. What is that user's name? So I want to say name. The name of the name will be name. And then for the type, it will be a string. And then the title be capital. Cool. So we have another field that we care about, and this one will be that person's wallet address. Remember, we're going to be using Phantom later on in this project. You guys just install. This is where we also need to store their wallet address, and that will be stored as a string. So make sure you specify the type. Okay, and the title is usually just the same thing as name, but just with the capital letter. That's more for our studio. So we'll say wallet. Okay, and last but not least, I want to be able to save the image URL with the user. So I'll do that by saying name is profile image, and the title will be capital file. Okay, cool. Go ahead and hit save, and make sure you're doing export const, because what you can do now is when you go to your schema.js, we can do an import user schema from user schema. So if we save, our studio shouldn't be empty now. It should actually show up the users. Rebuild bundle. Let's see, were we able to add it? Oh, that's right. We also have to make sure, in order to do that, we have to put in user schema in here. And since there's one, I'll just format it like that. Nope, not all caps. There we go. Now that should do it. We're importing user schema and passing it in here. So I'm gonna let this load. I'll be right back. Hey, there we go, guys. So now we have user. Obviously, we don't have any users yet, but later on in this video, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to set up those routes and create a user for each one that logs in. Sounds good? So we have the user schemas done. Last thing for the setup, we're just gonna need to create a new folder. This is what we usually call our lib folder. And within that lib folder, we're gonna have our Sanity. And our sanity.js. This is where we're gonna import that client. We import Sanity client from @sanity/client. If you don't see that, you just make sure you have to @ Sanity, and you might be missing a package. But if you do, you're good to go. And now that I'm thinking about it, while we're here, you guys might have done this with Qazi, but for me, I have to set up a .env. So in my .env, this is where I'm gonna put my project ID and Sanity token. So that's what I'll call it, Sanity project _ID, and set it equal to whatever it is. And then we do Sanity _token. And to get these two things, all you have to do is go to your Sanity account, click that project, which is Facebook blockchain, and look at that. Project ID is already there. So I'm gonna click paste. There's the project ID. To get the token, you actually need to go to API and add an API token. You can name this whatever you want. Please just name a token. Make sure you click editor, hit save. Boom. It's going to generate a unique API token. Yours will look completely different from, but just go ahead and paste it on there, save, and go back to your sanity.js. Let's finish building this out. So to finish building it out, you just say export const client. We're going to be using this client later on in the video to set up to create a user and get a user. But for now, what we want to do here is set up the client. So we say the project of ID is going to be the process.env.sanity project _ID. Cool. The data set, we'll set it to production, and the API version, we can set that to v1. Okay. From there, we can just set up the token, which will be similar, process.env.sanity, I believe it's _token. Okay. Last but not least, use CDN. This will be set to false. Cool. Make sure you're exporting the content, and we are good to go with Sanity. I'll be sending it back to Qazi, and I'll see you guys later for the next part.
All right, so now we're gonna install Solana and Rust on our computer and get that whole thing set up. So here's what I'm gonna let's just go to Google. We're just gonna type in install Solana Anchor, okay? And Anchor is something I'll talk about in a second, but basically it Think of JavaScript and React and how React makes JavaScript easier. When you're writing Solana code, you have to write it in a language called Rust. Rust is pretty painful to write in. So it's better to actually use a framework called Anchor. Anchor will make writing Rust easier, okay? And don't worry, we'll learn this together and we'll do this all together, okay? So don't freak out. Yes, it's a new language, but it's very popular. And why we're choosing the Solana chain for this project is Solana chain is the fastest experience. If we did this on Solidity, good luck. You'd be waiting like 5 minutes for each comment to show up. With Solana, it shows up fast. So it's the fastest chain, and I think it's the best user experience by far. So here we go. Now we got to install Rust. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to copy this and I'm just going to open up my command line. Okay. So let's open up command line and I'm just going to go back to like my home page. Okay. And we're going to start installing. All right. Now we're just basically going to write these lines that we see here on the right hand side, and we're just going to write them one by one. So we're going to start off with this curl one. Okay. So let's go ahead, highlight it, and I'm going to copy it. Do not hit the copy button, just copy it manually or right click and copy, whichever one you want. And then we're going to go to my command line and I'm just going to hit paste and let's hit enter. Okay, so that should be downloading it now. Let's make this a little bit smaller. All right, we're going to go ahead and choose the first one. So we're going to proceed with installation, which is going to be the default installation. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit 1 on this and hit enter. Okay, it's installing it. Make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so this installation is going to take some time, but once this is done, the next commands that we're going to be looking at are our source and then rust up component. Okay, so perfect. So to configure your current shell, run this. So just copy this exact thing. Oh, actually copy this entire thing right here. And we're just going to hit enter. Okay, so perfect. And then the last line we're going to write is that one, rust up component, add rust fmt, and hit enter. Perfect. So it says component rust fmt for target blah, blah, is up to. So this means we're done installing Rust on our computer. All right, now, so to prove that we have Rust installed and it's working, here's what we want to do. Essentially, we want to be able to write the simplest hello world program in Rust. Then we're just going to try running it. Okay, so I'm going to just do vi main.rs. Okay, you could also just make a new file called main.rs from your Visual Studio Code if you feel more comfortable. I feel comfortable being able to do it from Vim, so I'm going to do that. But if that's annoying for you and you don't know how to use Vim, it's okay. Just literally make this file with Visual Studio Code and you should be fine. I'm going to go in here. I'm just going to write this. Okay, we're going to say print line and we're going to say hello YouTube instead of hello world. Okay, and that. I'm going to close it out and I'm going to exit with Shift ZZ. Then the next thing that I need to do is write this command here, rust main.rs, rust c main.rs, actually compile it. I'm going to go rust c main.rs. I'm going to compile this file that I created. Now it's compiled. And now I can actually just do /main and it actually should just run it and say hello YouTube. Perfect. If you've gone this far, great job. That means you have Rust actually installed on your computer and it's fully working. Fantastic. With that said, we're going to keep going. So now we're going to go back and we're going to go ahead and actually install Solana here. So I'm just going to copy this. You can hit that copy clipboard button too here. That's fine. Line over there. And I'm simply going to paste it and let's hit enter. This will install Solana on Mac OS and Linux. Okay. Look at the instructions on how to do it for Windows as well. But I believe that you should be able to do it in a similar way. Okay. It's installing here. It's extracting everything. Once we have Solana installed, we're going to start working and to get our anchor and everything installed because we're going to need that for our project. Okay. There we go. Solana is installed, adding export path, users. Okay, great. Close and reopen your terminal. So basically what we're going to do is instructions. It says run the following in your existing shell. So I'm going to go ahead, copy this, paste it, and I'm going to hit enter. Now it's added the things that it needed to add to the path. That way, when I ever run these files or I need to look for these files, my terminal and my command line tools are able to find it because it's in my path and it's a known path. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install Anchor. So let's go ahead, copy this line here, go over to my command line, paste it, hit enter, run the same command, but just add the word sudo at the start, type in your computer password and just try installing it again. Boom, this time it looks like it installed without a problem. So that's a great sign. Thing we're gonna need is we're gonna now add a cargo. Let's go ahead, copy this here, paste and hit enter, and it should work installing this. If you're on you're gonna also need to add and run this command next. Okay. Anything else, you don't need to run this command. Okay, this is just for Linux. For us, if you're on a Mac, like after this, you're gonna be done and pretty much ready to rock and roll. Look at that, Serum Dex, Auction House, Metaplex, all kinds of useful stuff here with Anchor that's gonna make our development much easier. And really the purpose behind Anchor is it makes your development a lot simpler. So there's a bunch of stuff with Solana and Rust that worry about, especially with native Rust, like serialization and deserialization of your code. And that's not fun. A lot of them in the Solana community call it like eating class. But if you do it with Anchor, it's going to simplify and handle a lot of that for you. So basically, it's going to make your life a heck of a lot easier. So you're not going to really need to worry about all of that stuff. So this compiling and our installation is done soon here. So let's wait for that. Looks like that was installed perfectly. Now, all we need to do is just go ahead, check out which version of Anchor we have, and that will verify if we have installed this properly. It looks like the Anchor CLI is indeed installed correctly. Okay, so we have verified that, and that is perfect. Let's also go ahead and verify that we have installed Solana the exact same way, and we have installed it correctly. So let's take a look. I'm just going to do Solana dash version here. Boom, looks like Solana and Anchor were both actually installed completely correctly. So that's a great sign. All right, so now what we want to do after we have everything installed with Solana is we need to go ahead and set up our own wallet. So what I'm going to do in order to do this is we're just going to go ahead and say Solana, and I'm going to say keygen new. And what this will do is actually generate a new wallet for me. And let's see what it says here. This wallet, by the way, we're making because we're going to need this to sign off our contracts. Like, for example, when somebody's making a Facebook post. So this is for our coding side, okay? So I'm going to just leave this empty and I'm going to hit enter. Cool. So boom, it just gave me a public key, which you can copy if you want. All right. Save this seed phrase and to recover your new key pair. You can also save this here as well. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead, copy this. You can put it wherever you want. Okay. I'm just going to kind of do it in a really stupid way right now. And I'm just going to put it in my coding file right here. Okay. But please do not do that. Do not put this in your code file. Put this somewhere safe. Okay. So let's go here. Boom. And I'm going to put that right there. Okay, just so I have it. So keep these safe. Next thing that we want to do is we want to connect this wallet that we created to the DevNet. Okay. Because we don't want right now, this one is not going to be on the main net. This one needs to be on the DevNet. What I want to do here is I want to say Solana config. I'm going to say set URL. And I'm going to say https://api.devnet.solana.com. Make sure you have the https:// written out correctly here, and then just hit enter. Boom, there we go. Just gave us a RPC URL, a WebSocket URL, and it says commitment level confirmed. So it's confirmed that this happened, and it actually even gave me a key pair path, which is in my config Solana ID.json. So this is actually stored on my local computer. Perfect. Config file, it tells me where it's at. It's a YAML file, YML at the end. All right, now what you can actually do, look at this. Solana makes it so freaking clean. Look at this. I can actually check my balance by doing Solana balance. Look at that. I get 0 SOL. It's telling me exactly what I have. And then I can also do Solana address. And this will actually tell me what my wallet address is, right? So boom, this is my public address of the wallet. What's so nice about this is whenever I'm working with any other tool or whatever, their command line tools are really bad, or you have to pass some weird flags and things like that. This is just so clean. Solana balance, Solana address, and boom, it just shows you everything. So far, from a developer experience perspective, I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I hope that you are as well from watching this. Let's keep going. Now, the last thing I need to do is I need to like airdrop some amount of SOL. So I want to airdrop some fake SOL into this, okay? And just so you guys don't know clearly what Solana is, Solana offers a really beautiful user experience and it's really fast. It's one of the fastest blockchains in the world. That's why we're using Solana, just because it makes a really seamless, amazing experience. And if you were to go on CoinMarketCap or something like that, you'll see it's one of the top 10 coins, and it has been for a while now, and it's one of the fastest growing. I think right now in the developer world, it's probably right behind Ethereum. Maybe one day, who knows, it might catch up and actually win. So we'll see. Let's go ahead and get some fake Sol airdropped. So I'm going to go ahead and say Solana airdrop 1, and let's hit enter. Requesting airdrop of 1 Sol, finalizing. It's so beautiful, right? With the Solidity, you have to do all kinds of weird stuff to create a wallet, to airdrop it. Here, so nice and easy with 2 lines of code. We have it. We have this airdrop. So I'm going to say Solana balance, and it actually does tell me that I have 1 balance. And if I wanted more, I can just airdrop it again. I wish I could do this on the mainnet. That would be nice. I'd become very rich very, very quickly. So there we go. We have 2 Sol. Whoops, what the heck did I just do there? We got 2 Sol, so we're good. Our wallet is ready to go. And now we're going to go ahead from here. All right, now what we're going to do is we're actually going to initialize this project using Anchor, so we're ready to rock and roll, okay? So going over, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it whatever you want. Like for Solidity, normally we would call it like smart contract. You could still kind of call it here. I'm just going to call it programs because in Solana, that's kind of how they name things. Now what I'm going to do from my command line is I'm going to cd into programs, and then in here I'm just going to say anchor init and then do period, because I want to be initializing that anchor right here. So just hit enter. Now we're going to start the installation process. So we got this error. Let's fix this real quick. All right, actually, so with Anchor, you actually have to give it a project name. You can't just say period here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, delete this folder I just created in programs, and we'll back out, or oops, that's annoying. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Facebook Solana, all right, the main folder that the project is in. And then here, I'm just going to say anchor in it, and we're just going to say programs and hit enter. All right, so if it was giving you errors like it was giving me, apparently my command line that I installed with here was detecting when I wrote Solana, but when I was writing Solana in my VS Code command line, it was not detecting it. I tried restarting and opening up Visual Studio Code again. It still didn't work. So what I decided to do is in my Visual Studio Code command line, I just went ahead and installed Rust from scratch, then copied and pasted this command source, then the Rust up command, but then that installed Rust for me. Then I installed Solana by copying this command, pasting it in, and writing it here. That installs Solana. So now when I write Solana, it does pull it up. Perfect. And now Solana is working. Solana balance is working. And now we're good to go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just go ahead and say init, and I'm just going to say programs. Basically, it just created this folder right here. If you can see it, boom, it's called programs. It's initializing it with Anchor. And now when I go inside, look at that, how nice that is. Anchor just made all of these nice things for us. So that was super easy. All right, now that I installed everything, let's click programs here. And inside of programs, you'll see I have a folder called programs. Go inside there. Inside there is another programs, and then click source and go to lib.rs. Okay, this is where we're going to be writing our smart contract. So think of it like this. The entire thing is your app, okay, or at least this is your front end. And then this program thing, that's your smart contract portion. Now that we're inside of this lib.rs, we're going to go ahead, make a structure for our app, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a post account structure, okay? And we're going to be using something called struct, which is just like, think of it kind of like you're defining the shape of an object. So in JavaScript, you have these objects, right? Things go inside of them. So this here is you're just defining the shape of it, what that object would look like. So now I'm going to do account. And whenever you're trying to store data or information on chain on Solana, do something like this, where you're going to do hashtag, this weird bracket thing, and then account. You're just letting it know this is an account. Okay, cool. Let's go down and let's write our code. Oh, wow. That is super cool that GitHub Autopilot can even understand Rust code and Solana code, which is super nice. But yeah, we're not going to be making this, but this is what ours will kind of look like, what we're about to do. So we're going to say pub struct, and we're going to say post account. All right. And then the first thing is going to be our signer address. So I'm going to say, we're just going to call it authority. So who has the authority of this post? We're going to say pub key. So just to understand what a post account would be is, hey, what is the account account that made this post on Facebook. Who made this post? This is what this is gonna host. And again, what's so freaking cool about this, you know, we haven't talked about this, but this is the first freaking project where we're gonna store the data on a blockchain. So literally, you don't even have a backend anymore. You don't have a database, yet you can store all your information. That is freaking cool, right? You don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to sign up for anything. You can just store this data on this worldwide ledger. All right, next thing we're gonna need is we're gonna need text. So I'm gonna say text, and this is gonna be of type string. So the first thing is type pub key, which is your public key. Next up, we're gonna have poster name, and then we're also gonna have a poster URL. This is going to be a string. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go comment count, and I'm gonna go use 64 on this, right? We're gonna need a post index, and I'm gonna need a post time. So when the post happens, we're gonna say I64. When it comes to the post account struct, that's all. This is the information that's gonna be stored. So we're just kind of defining a data structure here. Next up, what we're gonna be building is one more after this. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on that. All right, now what we're gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna go ahead delete this right now. Okay, we're gonna write this from scratch. So remember, when I am making something like this, right? So I'm gonna have this like, this is just a struct, simple stuff. So I'm literally just going to say account up here. When I have something more complicated that I need to do, I'm actually gonna say derive accounts like this. Okay, and then now underneath here, I'm gonna make a struct. And I'm gonna create state. I'm gonna pass in info here. And then we're gonna do the following. So I need to create account block. Okay. And this account block is gonna have init. I will give it a couple of things. So let's go here. Let's go like this. So I'll give it I'll initialize it. I'm going to give it certain seeds. So the seeds that I'm gonna give it, I'm gonna put it in bytes. So I'm gonna say state. And then I'm just gonna say, hey, turn that to ref like this. Okay. Boom. There we go. So that's gonna automatically generate a random seed every time like this state variable is created. So imagine like I want to create a state that's unique every single time. Well, if for whatever reason my state ends up being the same as your state, bump is this algorithm that'll just like make it unique. When it matches the same, it'll just go, nope, this is the same one. So give me just another number or another code so that it doesn't match the previous one. So essentially, it'll allow me to always have a unique ID, okay? Kind of like in databases. I also need to give it a pair. And so for pair, I'm just gonna say it's gonna be the authority, okay? And then we'll go here, and space is going to be, we're gonna use size of, okay, for this. And we're gonna say it's gonna be the size of the state account. So we haven't made the state account yet, but we will make it soon. So we have a post account, but we'll also make a state account soon. And I'm just gonna say +8. Going underneath here, this is gonna be the state variable. And this is gonna have this special thing called account, which is gonna have info. And then we're gonna say state account. If some of this stuff doesn't make sense to you right now, that's totally okay. This has to do with lifetimes inside of Rust and Anchor. This will make more sense as we go along. For now, just trust me and just go along. These things will get clearer as we move on. This whole account thing, I'm just gonna move it to one line just to show you something for now. This entire account thing right here is just for this specific variable state here. I'm saying that initialize the state. This state should have the specific seed here. The state should have this bump algorithm and a pair. So that's where that's being used. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that this block of code goes along with this. So we got our state. Now let's go down. The other thing that we're gonna need is the authority. Okay, so the authority, this is the signer who has actually paid the transaction fee. So let's move this. Let's go down here. Let's move this back. And I'm going to say account. Okay, we're going to go mute here. And then I'm going to go authority like that. And the signer is a special reserved word that we have. And that allows us to get access to the signer. And info is the lifetime thing that I mentioned. Okay, so we're just going to pass that right there. So this is the authority variable that we're using here as well. Okay, and this mute here that I wrote, that just means this is mutable, meaning that we can change authority. Authority can be me, and then next time it could be somebody else, the next time it could be somebody else. So it's something that's mutable, it's something that's changeable. All right, let's put a comma here. Let's go down. Now we're gonna make our system program. So don't really need to have this comment here. That's just for you. We're gonna say system program. Things need to be snake cased in when you're writing in Rust and in Anchor. So we're gonna do system_program. And here for system program, I'm just going to say unchecked account and leave that as is. Now, I do know that unchecked accounts can be a security risk, but we're just doing this as a demo, educational purposes, building this. So for one of your first Solana apps, it should be fine. When you want to move it to production, you need to make it more secure. And then we'll have our token program portion. Okay, so basically here, I'm going to make our token program, and we're just going to say it's going to be a program, taken info, and it's going to be of type token. And right above this, I'm going to say this is going to be an account. It's going to have a constraint, and that constraint is going to be the token program, where the token program key is this token's ID. So I've put this constraint, and now I have my token program set up, is now done. And we just got to make a couple of more things, and then we should be done with this entire Solana or this Rust smart contract. And this is really going to be one of the most difficult and kind of confusing parts, but just hang in there with me. We're going to build it out step by step. And once you're done with this, the rest of the project is going to be smooth sailing from there. All right. So now we're just going to make the state account that we created over here. So I'm going to just scroll down right over here. We're going to go and say, this is going to be an account block. It's going to be simple. So I'm just going to do my hashtag bracket, and then I'm going to have a pub struct. And we're going to say it's going to be a state account, just like this. And I'm going to say that first, this is going to be the signer address. So we're going to just say authority. I'm going to give it a pub key. So that's great. And then we're going to also have our post count. So how many posts are here? So I'm going to say post count, and it's going to be AU64. And for those of you who are nerdy and want to know exactly what this is just an unsigned integer that's 64-bit. So basically, you're just going to store numbers in here. And we're just creating the struct. We're defining state account here. Okay. And we're using state account here, but we're defining this struct right there. All right, guys. So we just finished up our create state, our state account. Let's go ahead and build our create post. So this one is going to also have some more complicated functions inside of it. So we're going to basically say this is going to be a derive accounts block. And here I'm going to create it as a struct. I'm going to do create post. So I'm going to create my state variable here, and it's going to be account info, and then it'll be state account. So I'm basically telling my account that you're going to be of the state account type. Okay, so this struct that we created here is going to be of the same type. Here, I'm going to say accounts will go, and this is going to be our standard stuff. So this is going to be of type account, the state, and it's going to be the same as the one that we did before already. So it's going to be mute, it's going to be mutable. Seeds is going to be bytes of state. I'm going to say as ref. And then let's get out of this right there. I'm going to get out of the seeds. And then we're going to pass in bump. Okay, no need to add pair for this, and we also don't need to initialize this. So our state is good to go. This here will authenticate our state account. The next thing that we actually need to do is we need to authenticate the post account. Okay, so how we're going to actually do that. Oops, let's bring that in here. So how we're going to do that is we're going to say it's going to be an account. We'll initialize this, break it up onto new lines. I will say seeds, and we're going to do post as ref, and we're going to do state. And just before we continue on this, guys, what I want you to understand is we're just going to be using seeds is always used to create a unique seed. Okay, so it's like, think of it like a unique ID in a database. So we're basically using anchors like built-in mechanisms to create a unique seed for us. And the logic that we're using behind this specific seed is we're going to be using the post. Okay, so we're going to be using the post as a seed and index of post as seed. Okay, so all that basically means is we're using the specific post and where that post happens as a seed, and this will just give us something unique every single time. Perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead, write that out. So we're going to go post count, say 2B bytes, and then we're just going to go ahead and say as ref, just like that, and put a comma here at the end. So that should handle our seeds. For this one, we're also going to do bump. Pair is going to be the authority, so it's the actual user. So whenever you're initializing, you're always going to need to pay. We're going to create this space. So for this space, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using size of, I'm going to be saying, hey, it's going to be of type post account, but instead of +8 on this, what we're going to be doing is we want to give this post a specific size. So this space here, I want you to kind of imagine it like this, okay? Kind of like imagine it's like LA, okay? And you have these blocks that you can purchase where you're going to build. All right. So whatever thing you're building, literally imagine it like real estate, except this is like digital real estate on the blockchain. So you're going to be finding the specific block that you want to build on, and you get to choose the size. So is it like a tiny block that you want, a big one? And the bigger that block is, right, the more it's going to cost you. So that's why you want to that's the benefit of lower level programming languages. Unlike JavaScript, programming languages like Rust, you can define the size of the block that you want. That way, your code will be more efficient. You'll also be paying much less prices than anybody else. So we're going to go ahead and come up with the size of ours, okay? And how we're going to come up with the size is in the following manner. Okay, so let's go all the way to the top. I'm just going to declare a couple of things. Okay, I'm going to say my text length, and we can just make it uppercase like this. And I'm going to give it 1024. Okay, so the text length would mean, hey, if I'm making a post on Facebook, how many characters can I have? So this is like 1024 bytes. And that roughly translates to about 1024. You can make a post that has maybe 1024 characters. The next thing I need is what should be the length of the username, right? Because everybody who's making a post is also going to have a username. So for example, I might be Clever Programmer or Qazi making a post on Facebook. So what's the size of this? I'm going to say the size of this. We're going to go length usize. And for this, we're just going to go and say 100. And then we're just going to make the last one, which is going to be the URL for my image. And we will say usize of this is going to be 255. So these are the three variables we're going to use to define our size right over here. We're basically going to go user URL length plus text length plus not user URL length, but name length. Okay. This is going to basically ensure that block of land we're purchasing will always have enough space for one post. Okay. And within that post, you'll be able to store the user's username, the actual, text body of that post, and the URL image. So if it says this post was made by Clever Programmer, then I need to actually be able to store the space of the URL that represents my profile image, my post body, and my username length of Clever Programmer. So we're purchasing that small land on the blockchain. That's what space is for. Going down, I'm going to basically say this is post. We're going to pass info, and we're going to say it's going to be of type post account. All of this here applies to the specific variable post. It's just for posts. So we're initializing our post. We're buying a piece of land for that specific post. That post will have a pair, okay? And that post will have this seed right here. So a lot going on here, but I hope that this is beginning to make somewhat sense. And, at least there's some pattern recognition stuff involved here. I'll definitely say that. So some of this stuff, if you're new to Solana, it's going to look kind of confusing, but the more and more we do this, we're going to start building some pattern recognition here, and hopefully it's going to start making some more sense. Next up, we're just going to need a signer. So for the signer, I'm going to do essentially the same thing that I did above. So I'll just pretty much copy that code, come down here, and I can paste that right there. So I need a mutable authority here, and that's going to be signer. Okay. I also am going to do the same thing with my system program. I can just copy this right here. Let's go down and let's paste it. Perfect. So I have a program. And then for my token program, I'm going to do the same thing as well. You can just copy that from the top, come down and paste it. And just to explain a tiny bit more about this constraint is we're basically saying, hey, if we make this Facebook app and let's say we initialize it with Solana, let's say Solana USDC, the person that has to make their post has to also pay in Solana USDC to actually put their post on this chain. If we in turn make this Solana Sol, when the user has to pay, they have to pay in Sol. If you wanted to make it, let's say Johnny token, you could initialize your app with Johnny token, and the person who's using your app would literally need to have the Johnny token in order to be able to make posts. And if they don't, they can't make any posts on your app. Super cool. I feel like a lot of creators can use this, right? If Mayweather had an app or McGregor had an app, like you would need the McGregor token in order to be able to post on that app. So there's a lot of, if Gary Vee had an app, you could only post on it maybe with Gary Vee tokens, V friends or whatever. All right, perfect. So this is that part regarding the constraint. And last thing that we actually need to finish up our create post is going to be a time or just timestamp. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and say clock, and we're going to get our sysvar. Okay, and it's going to be of type clock. Perfect. So this sysvar is kind of built in, and this over here is going to be our timestamp. All right, guys. So now we're going to make our first function inside of Rust and Anchor. So I hope that you're excited. Now we're getting to the fun parts, because up until now, we're just defining the data structures, kind of doing some of the boring parts, but that are important. So let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to come inside of my programs that I have written here. Okay. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to leave the super. The super is basically just saying, hey, like the scope is everything. Okay, so I don't want you to limit the scope. I'm going to come here, okay, and this is going to be my first function, so public function, and instead of calling this function initialize, what I'm going to say is create state. So this is going to be our initialization. For the CTX part, I'm going to say context, and I'm going to give it a specific context. So I'm going to give it the create state one. Let's go ahead where we created the create state. Perfect. Let's copy that. I'm going to paste that right there. Okay, so that's going to be the context here. Let's put it on its own line. Let's go boom, boom, right? We're going to say comma. Cool. And there are no more arguments that we have here. Okay. And then we're just going to basically return a result, and you could leave these here or you could leave it just like this. Totally up to you. Okay. Whatever we're returning, we're going to return, we're going to just name this as a result. Perfect. This is the most basic function you can kind of have in Rust, because this function will run and it will just basically say, okay, like this function ran and it was okay. There were no problems. There were no errors. If there are errors, then it's not going to run this okay line right there. So let's go down. Now we're going to make this a little bit more complicated and add more things to it. So I'm going to say, let's state equals, and state is going to be our accounts. Okay. So this function here is going to be passed in from our front end. All right. We're going to basically be able to create a state at any given time. And then we're going to be able to access that specific states or that specific context accounts and the state. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure that I can actually mutate this. So I'm going to pass, basically say this here, ampersand and mute, which means whatever a state that I pull from here, I want it to be mutatable. Okay, something I could change. I could change its values. And now we're going to go ahead and do just that. So let's put a semicolon here and let's go down. Now we're going to save the authority to the state. So I'm going to say, I'm going to grab the authority here, and I will just say, make it the authority of whoever is currently the authority, the current person who's like, let's say, logged in with their wallet. So that's who the state's authority is going to be set to. Okay. And because we allowed this mutation here, now we can do something like state.authority and change its value. So the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to set the post count to 0, because we're literally just starting and creating our post for the very first time. Okay, so let's go ahead and do state.post count, and we're going to set that to 0. And then we're just going to simply pass OK. So this is our create state function, and we're done with that. The next function we're going to need is going to be our create post function. Wow, look at that. My GitHub autopilot already putting in work. So let's go create post right there. And I'm going to do CTX context. So every time I'm making these functions, I'm just going to pass in my CTX. Okay. Every time you make a function, you say CTX, and then you give it the data type that you want it to kind of deserialize here. So I'm going to just say create post. This struct, we made it earlier. So let's go ahead and look. Boom, right there. I have create post. Okay. So it's the type create post. Let's go down. I'm going to give this text. Text is going to be of type string. Whoa. Strong. What the heck is that? String. Poster name is going to be of type string as well. And poster URL is going to be string as well. Perfect. And then last thing we want to do here is, of course, just say, hey, this is going to be program result or result, whatever you want to call this. All right. And then let's go down, and now we'll start setting up our state, and we'll say, hey, this state is mutatable. We're going to say mute ctx.accounts.state, just like this. So first we're going to get the state. So this is allowing us to get the current state. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to get the get the post. Post equals, this is going to be also mutatable or mutable, not mutatable, mutable. Post. Then we're going to set the authority, and that's going to be the key of whoever's currently in. Then we're going to set the text to whatever the text that was passed in. Poster name is going to be the poster name that was passed in. Then the poster URL is going to be the poster URL that was passed in. And then we're going to set the comments, comment count, and index. And then let's go ahead and do our post time. So when was this post made? So we're going to go post.clock. So we're going to grab it from the clock and we're going to perfect. And then last thing that we're going to do is we're going to increment the post count by 1. Okay. So every single time that we create a post, we're going to increment the post count by 1. Hopefully that makes sense. And then that way we can keep track of that post. So again, this is so freaking cool, right? Because all of this data is actually being stored on the blockchain and we don't need a database, and we can actually increment and we can retrieve this information. Just pretty cool because, you know, we don't have a backend here. We're just storing all of this on the blockchain. Web3 is our backend. So super cool. Perfect. And then last thing we're going to do here is we're just going to say, okay, and it's double open parentheses and then double close parentheses. Perfect. All right. That was a lot of smart contract work. We're going to be doing some more of it, but I'm going to be passing it over to Lance in just a second, who's our amazing instructor. He's done some of the previous builds like Robinhood and Tinder that you guys have enjoyed so freaking much. He's our front end master, so he's going to be bringing in some of the front end side. But here's what I want to leave you with. A lot of this stuff is new, so it can be challenging. It can feel intimidating. It can feel scary, like, oh my God, what is going on? Trust me, I'm like new to Rust and Solana and Anchor as well. So like for me, it felt kind of intimidating, but once you get used to it and you start doing this, it will start becoming easier and easier. Like we were joking right before this with David, who's on our team. And some of you guys know him from a lot of the builds, like the Mern builds, and you guys call him Dr. Mern. And, you know, he was like, oh, this is starting to make sense now. You know, and I think it's just because he was looking at the Rust code for so long, started making sense. And initially, to me, this looked like complete Egyptian, right? Gibberish. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I don't understand. But hang in there. This will start making sense. We're going to be moving to the JavaScript portion now, which Lance is going to be jumping into and building out the front end. And once the front end starts getting put together, you're going to start going, the pieces are making more and more sense. Okay. And then in the future, we're going to have some more, hopefully Solana is coming through. So it's going to make even more sense then. So I hope you're excited. I'm going to be switching it over to Lance. Lance, go ahead, take it over and crush it.
What's up guys, it's Lance here again. So what we're going to need to do before we get started with the front end, I need to walk you guys through a couple of things. One of the first things is head over to your cargo toml and double check that you have the same version that I have. If you're watching this from a future, there might be a newer version that's out. Like for example, 0.23 is out. And if you do update to that, you might run into some bugs with this build. So if you want to make sure you're doing the same thing that we're doing, make sure you have the same version. So once that's done, you can go ahead and, do you see your target folder? Go ahead and delete it. But don't worry, it's going to come back and I'll show you guys how to get it back. So hop over to your terminal and just write anchor build. As you're running anchor build, you're going to notice that it's compiling because that's exactly what's happening here. So with Solana, we don't really call them smart contracts, we call them programs. And when you do anchor build, it's going to compile your program. And then the next step would be to deploy it. And after you deploy it, you should get back a program ID. I'll let this thing build and I'll show you guys how to deploy your program. Awesome. So it looks like it finished compiling and look at that. Our target folder is back. And like I said, the next step in your terminal is to say anchor deploy. This step will also take a couple minutes. And at the end of it all, you should see your program ID. All right, let's go. Do you see that? That's your program ID. You can look at it like a contract address if you're coming from Solidity. So go ahead and copy that. And remember where it says declare ID in your lib.rs. We want to replace it with our new. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit paste. And that's not the only place we want to, the only place where you want to update the ID. Go ahead and go to your anchor.toml and copy this and paste your new ID. Oops, take your new ID and paste it. There we go. Cool. So now that we updated our Rust folder, our Rust file, and our toml file, let's go ahead and run an anchor build again. And this time we won't delete the target. Cool. So it's finished compiling now. And then we just have to deploy it one more time with our updated program ID. So let's do anchor deploy. Awesome. So the deployment is successful. And you should see we didn't get a new program ID. Everything's all good. Let's move on to the next section. All right, everybody, we're gonna get started with the front end. I already started up. I'm using Netlify Dev. That's why we're on localhost 8888 and head over to your index.js. So again, this is the reason why you see all of this stuff is because it's the starter Next.js code. So we don't need a lot of it. So what I'm going to do is erase everything within that div. You can also go ahead and erase all of these stuff right here. And from here, we're going to be building it out. So instead of styles.container, we're going to do styles.wrapper. Okay, so I'm going to build out the divs first. Then we can make our styles object with Tailwind to get everything set up. So the first div is going to be the styles.wrapper. From there, we're going to have a component that doesn't exist yet, but I like to set it up so we have an idea of what we're building. So I'm going to call it header. Okay, so keep it in mind. After that, I know I'm going to need to do some conditional rendering here. So if the user is registered, so we don't have this variable yet, so I'm going to put it in for now, registered question mark. Okay, cool. And if registered is true, we're going to make this div. We're just going to have the class name style dot, not styles.wrapper. It's going to be home, right? Because we can have the two of the same. Okay. And of course we need the closing div to this. The important part is what goes in between, which is another component that we're going to be making later on, which is the sidebar. Very nice. So in the next line within that home wrapper, make another div, and this one's going to be called style.main. Inside that main div, we're going to have a feed component, and there's going to be a bunch of heavy things in here. So I'm going to comment it out because it doesn't exist just yet. So going outside of the main div, but still in the home wrapper, we're going to need a write sidebar component. Okay, so I'm just going to be setting up that component and then commenting it out again. Let's see, am I missing something? All right. Okay, and just to close off the registered thing, if the user is not registered, we're going to load up the sign up component. So I'm going to put that whole component in a div, and all I have to do is call that div with the class name of sign up. Okay. From there, we're going to have a sign up component. Okay, so typically, this is how we can see it be planned out. And let's see, what else am I missing? So typically, this is how I like to have it planned out. And just to keep it consistent with my other names, I'm going to call this style.wrapper. And to get started using Tailwind, and so you stop seeing this annoying, all you have to do is come to the top here and let's make a variable called style. And this is how we can set up Tailwind. I'm calling that wrapper class. And from here, you can give it the CSS that you want. So for me, I'm just going to call the background and give it this color. Then I'm going to say min height screen, and duration of it will be 0.5. Next, let's start styling the home div, the home wrapper div. The only thing that this is going to have is a flex property. From there, we're going to target the center and we'll say flex-1. Okay, next let's do the main, which is going to be similar, flex-1 flex, and give it a justify center. Okay, then we have sign up container. Oh, and we got flex, give it an items center, as well as a justify content center, or justify center in Tailwind, with screen height of 70 ph. Cool. So that should cover everything. Oh, and that's right, because we don't have registered yet. We can just hard code it for now and replace it later. Registered is equal to false. Awesome. Cool. And if you don't see any errors, we're good to go. But if you wanted to see how this conditional rendering works, you can type in something like sign up now. See if that shows up. Yep, sign up now. And if there is a registered, we can have text. This is the home feed, right? Because if registered is false, we should see sign up now. And if I set registered equal to true, we shouldn't see sign up now. We should see this is the home feed. And that's the same idea. That's why I structured it this way. If registered is false, we should see the sign up component and a user should be able to sign up. If registered is true, the user is already logged in. They should just see the home feed. That's all we're doing here. Next thing we should do is let's set up the sign up component. Cool. So to get started with the sign up part of this, I'm gonna go ahead and uncomment it. We're gonna be passing a couple things to sign up. So what we can do is format it like so, come underneath sign up, and the things that we're gonna pass into sign up is, for one, set registered equals set registered. And if it doesn't make much sense to you why I'm writing set registered, that's because that doesn't exist just yet. It will in a moment. So for name, it's going to equal name, which will just be the name of the user. Then we'll have set name so that people can set up their name. Okay, second, why is this? All right, go back. So set name equals set name, URL equals URL, and set URL equals set URL. Cool. And what we can do is we can create variables for these and pass those down, but I think it would be smarter to put all of these as a state. What we're going to need to do is come to the top here and let's import the useState hook. And since we're here, let's also get use effect because we're going to need to add that in later. Cool. And we can only use hooks within the function component itself. So I'll set that up here. Instead of having that registered variable, I'm going to put that registered variable in a state. And this is where the set register comes from. Makes sense? So I'm going to say equals use state. And if I want to set it by default false, we can by saying false. If I want it to be defaulted to true, I can put it to true. So since I want to play with sign up next, we should have this as false. So we can take that out. Let's set up the next state, which is going to be const name. And the standard convention is if you name it something, you should say set the name that you just created. State quotes const URL set. The URL is mostly for the images that the user wants for their picture. Okay. And we also have const users. Later on, we're going to make a query to get the list of users on our app. So for now, we can just set an empty one and just do an empty array as the initial state. Cool. Go ahead and hit save. Oh yeah, because you see signup is not defined because we haven't created that component yet, like I mentioned before. Let's go ahead and make a components folder. So I'm going to make say new file. Then we'll say signup.js. Don't forget to make a camel case. And now we're good. Awesome. All right. So now that's set up. I have an extension called React Code Snippets where you can just do something like that. Hold on. Let me redo this part again because it's glitching out. Cool. So after we make our components folder, let's make the actual component itself. So you can say sign up camelcase.js. You can do RAF. There we go. And if you're still seeing the error, that's because whenever you create a component, you must also export and then import it. So what I'll do here is import sign up from components sign. And this actually should be capital U. Don't know why it's lowercase u. Probably because my component itself that I wrote is lowercase. And let's make everything match. Amazing. Cool. So that means you also don't need this text sign up now because the sign up component is. While we're here, let's also make the feed component. Okay, so we got sign up and we also have feed. You can auto import it. Cool. So as you can see, if I initialize my state with false, we should see the sign up. But if for whatever reason our registered is true, we should see this is the home feed and also feed because the component is loaded, which means they're logged in. So I'm gonna head it back to false since we're working on signup now. And let's head over to signup.js. Awesome. So we're in signup now. The first thing I'll do is let's set up the JSX for it. So I'm gonna quickly format it and we're good to go. As you notice with a lot of our video, the convention of the outer div is usually the same, which is just gonna be style.wrapper. Oh, not style sheet, style. Then within style.wrapper, we're gonna have another div with the class name style dot logo, and right, because this div is going to hold that Facebook logo, and I guess technically it's also called meta right now, but we're making Facebook. Okay, and we're going to import image from Next.js. So I did an auto import, which will add this import state, and then I'm gonna close it like so. Then we can add all the other properties. So I can say source equals, and I have the URL I want to use, which is this, which is just a Facebook logo. Just a Facebook logo. And then the next thing you need to do is just give it some attributes of a height. You can just say 40, and the width will be the exact same to make it a nice square-like thing. So it's like the similar. And then for the alt, just call it Facebook logo. Amazing. There we go. That's the image. All right. And that's the logo container. So outside the logo and container, but still inside the wrapper div, we want to make another one. This one I'll call style. And for this div style title, I actually don't need to format it. What I can do is a please sign up to us, sign up to use Facebook. Okay. From there, I'm going to be creating a form. This is where the user will be able to sign up by passing in all the input. And we're going to put it in a function for this later. We don't have to worry about that for now. So I'm going to say styled out. Okay. Next, I'm going to start working on the fields. So I'm going to give this div a class name style.field contain, which will then have another, which is just going to have name as the text. But for the name, I'll have class name style dot input. Okay, then another div. This one's going to be called style.input container because just like how the name sounds, this is going to contain the actual input field. So if I write input here, make it self-closing. And for the attributes, we can say the value is equal to the name. And if you remember, name is a state that we created that we passed in. So we're going to need to bring that in our parameters. Then there's going to be an on change here where we can say event, or sometimes we can say set name, which again is a function that we're bringing in as a prop. That's not what I want. Set name event.target value. And what we can do is add a required here. And last but not least, let's give our input field a class name. Call mine style.input field. All right, so closing div, but still in our form, we want to make the rest of these things. All right, so what I'm going to do is actually copy it one more time. But the difference we want to make here is instead of name, this should actually be profile image URL. And instead of set name, it will be set URL. Also within here, there's also going to be a div. Oops. Also within here, there's going to be a div. It's going to have class name random URL, which is the random URL that it's going to generate. We're going to have a function for that, but I'm going to make it a little bit later. For now, we can just add a text field of random. So we have div, closing div, closing div. It's the field container. Next, we'll have a button, because in our form, we should have a submit button that will help the user sign up, passing down all the fields that they wrote. Submit button, and then you can get out of there and just do it equals. From there, all you gotta do is write sign up. And if I hit save, we should see an error because of the styles. So let's set that up next. I'm gonna say it up here, const style object. And I'll be going through these very quickly, but the wrapper is just gonna have flex with flex direction of column. Write P4 here. Oops, justify center items, center HW-full. And let's see, what did I have again? W-, it's gonna have a background of hashtag 252526 with minimum width, min height, hmin rounded -2. Awesome. Cool. So again, at any point you guys need the CSS, go ahead and pause the video so you don't miss out on typing if I'm moving too fast. So from there, the title is just going to have the text of this, font semi-bold, text large. For the form, it's just going to have flex property, flex column, item center. All my field containers in here will have my-4. Input title has this text and the font semi-bold. Input container we'll have flex item center. I'll hit save accidentally, still gonna be a problem. We got the input field. The random URL is gonna have all of this. Height full, background, this color, hover, background will look like that. Text white, px-2, py, hover. And last but not least, we have the submit button, which we'll just have this. Hit save, and that should be all of that. You might see an error for undefined. That's because we also need to destructure those props that we're passing in here, which if I remember correctly should be set registered, name, set name, URL, and set invalid source prop. Oh, because we have to go to our next config and we have to make sure that it has the host name of this. Totally forgot to do that. So let's go to our next.config, and we're going to need to add an images key, which has the value of an object, which has a domains key, which will then be an array of all the links that we're using. To speed up the process, it should look a little something like this. So these are all the URLs that we're going to be using for our images. So take a moment, pause the video, make sure you have all. Cool. So now that you have all of this, we should be able to go back to sign up, hit save. Let's see if it works now. Oh. You might have to restart a terminal. That's not a terminal. Okay, Netlify dev. Let's see if this works. So it looks like it's running. Server's ready, piling. Let's go. There it is. That's our sign up. She's beautiful, but don't worry, she'll have a prettier face as we keep working on it. So that's gonna be the front end for the sign up for now. Let's see. Let me do that part again, Norman or David, who's ever editing. But if you hit, we did Netlify dev, there she is. Awesome, there she is. She's beautiful. She can be way more beautiful, and that's because we need to set up Tailwind. I have all the CSS. It's not really showing up because we need to do just that. So to help, one thing you'll see me do a lot is Tailwind made some really nice documentation on how to set it up with Next.js. So all we need to do is do an npm install like this, okay? And for us, we're actually gonna do a yarn add instead of npm install. Add, there we go. And notice how we're getting three things. We're getting Tailwind CSS, post CSS, and auto prefixer. All right, let that install. And I'll walk you guys through the next step. Okay, cool. So it looks like it's done installing. Oh, never mind. It's not done installing. I'll let it keep installing. No, it's not lagging. All right, beautiful. It says it's done. So what we need to do is this step, which is to initialize Tailwind, npx Tailwind CSS init-p. All this does is initializes Tailwind, and it also creates the Tailwind CSS config file and the post CSS config file. What we care about at the moment is the tailwind.config. And what we need to do is add to the content array these two things. Okay, so I'm gonna go in the content array, paste, save. So we should be good to go with that. The next thing we need to do is go to our Tailwind CSS, go to the globals. What you can do is copy all those three things. You can actually delete everything in here because it's just boilerplate code, and you can just have the three Tailwind direct. Save that. Do a nice Netlify dev again, and we should see a beautiful transformation, the glow up of our Facebook page, because now we got Tailwind involved. Damn, it's just slow. And that's crazy. Oh, there we go. It's compiling. Hey, look at that. That's starting to look a little bit better. This is the sign up component. Doesn't look like a very old website anymore. Let's go. Okay, and started from here, Norman. All right, did Netlify dev, and let's go. There she is. She looks way better now. Doesn't look like a 90s website anymore. And there you go. That's the sign up components front end. Let's move on to the next part. All right, cool. So like I said, we have our beautiful sign up page, and just to double check, to get it fully looking like this, make sure you have the same CSS as I do. I might have had some spelling errors if it doesn't look like this. So double check your index and your sign up. So with that said, going to the feed.js, there's a couple things we need to set up here. The first thing that we need to do is install a couple different packages. So what I'll do is temporarily stop my terminal and let's see what we need to install. So what we need to install, we're going to do a yarn, and I'm going to do something like this. We're going to get at project-serum/anchor. And because we can get multiple things, let's just do that. I'll get at Solana/SPL token and space at, actually no, I'll do it in the next set. So let's get these two first, the serum and the SPL token. All right, cool. So we got those two installed. Let's do the next set, which is just going to be yarn add at /wallet/adapter dash react. Okay, well, I'm just gonna speed run the next few, which is going to be, next one is going to be Solana/wallet-adapter-react-ui. And the last one for this set is going to be the Solana/wallet-adapter-wallets. So these are the three for now. Hit enter. All right, that batch is done. And there only should be one more for now, which is just going to be a yarn add at Solana/web3.js. Oh, and I forgot one more. We also need React hot token. There you go. Well, we're going to be adding more packages as we go, but these are the ones that we're going to need for these JS. So let's get them right in. Let's go. We're all set. So come back to your feed.js and let's import everything we're going to need. At the top here, I'm going to do an import toast, toaster from React toast. This is going to let us make little notifications that say like the form was submitted. So I want to set it up like that. Next thing I want to do is import token program ID from Solana SPL token, which is just one of the packages that we installed. So that's where it's coming from. Okay, and next we're going to do import use wallet, and you'll see like a suggestion here. That's where we're getting it from, the wallet adapter dash react. Cool. And this is just standard things. At the top here, where we have the import React from React, we can just get our usual states, our usual hooks, which is just use state and use effect. Okay. Next thing I want to do is import Solana, and this one is actually going to come from the utils folder, which is going to get a const.js file, which doesn't exist yet, but I'm going to set it up and then we're going to make it right away. So I'm going to hit save, and let's go ahead now and make a utils folder. And inside that utils folder, we are going to have a const.beautiful. So now we're working on the const.js. We got to set up a couple things in here as well, which is going to be an import statement that's going to grab the cluster API URL from the Solana web3.js, which we added with yarn. Then we also want to get the public key from there. Cool. From there, we want to import Facebook_Solana from. The next thing we want to import, before we do that, we actually need to go into our target folder, which is inside my Facebook-Solana, and look under IDL. We're going to need this IDL. So I want to click on it, copy it, and copy it into your utils folder. So going into my utils, I'm gonna go ahead and hit paste. So we have the Facebook_sol.json in there. So going to your const.js, let's import that. We can say import Facebook_Solana or sol quotes./Facebook_sol.json. Awesome. All right, so let's set up our cluster. So what we can do for our cluster is export const, and then it should be capital actually, cluster, set that equal to the devnet, because that's what we're going to be working on. And then in the next line, we're going to do an export const Solana_host equals Solana host equals this https api.devnet.solana.com. I'm just getting this from my Facebook sol folder. Cool. And I think that's actually we should label this Solana host underscore. So Solana host equals this. Next thing let's do is let's set up the stable pool program underscore ID, right? And remember that public key that we imported from Solana Web3? We're gonna create a new public key. You're gonna put quotes here, and remember that program ID that we got at the very beginning when you saw me. Let's go ahead and grab that. So that should be in my Facebook sol. Under programs, anchor, we need to grab this little thing, copy that, head back to your const, and that should go inside the public key. From there, we're just gonna do an export const and say that the stable pool IDL is going to be equal to the Facebook, right? Because that is the JSON file that we imported. That's going to be equal to stable pool IDL. Cool. So that's our cons folder. Now we can head back to feed.js. And now the Solana host is going to make sense, right? The Solana host is essentially this right here. Okay, we're going to be using it soon. So the next thing I want to do is the get program instance. And this is going to come from something that doesn't exist just yet, but we'll make. So I'm going to do from .utils/get-program. So like I said, this doesn't exist yet, but what we could do is go into our utils and let's get that set up. All right, so going to my utils, I'm going to make a new file and I'm going to call it get program. It's going to do exactly what it sounds like. And from here, we can do an import star as anchor from the @project serum that we had. Cool. From there, we're gonna get a connection and we're gonna get this from Solana Web3. Then we're gonna import the wallet not connected error. Gotta spell it, wallet not connected error from @Solana wallet adapter. Cool. So like I said, this should be Solana @Solana wallet actually. Adapter dash base. Oh yeah, there's the suggestion and it should be wallet not connected error. Cool. All right. And remember the stuff we set up in const. Let's import some of that today in here. So stable pool IDL from const. And while we're here, we should also get this stable underscore pool underscore program underscore ID. You guys got that? Cool. So let me just double check. That's what I wrote. Yep. Stable pool program underscore ID. Awesome. Next, we're going to set up a function. I'm going to say export function get program instance, and it's going to take 2 parameters, connection, wallet, and we're just going to set up a nice condition here that says if there is no wallet.pub key, we're going to throw a new wallet not connected error and then parentheses to call it. Cool. Awesome. After that if statement, we're going to do a const provider and set this equal to, set this equal to new, right, which we're getting from at the top provider. Inside the curly brackets of this provider, we need to pass in connection, wallet, and anchor provider dot default options. Amazing. Okay, what's this? Oh, and this actually shouldn't be curly bracket. This should be parentheses. There you go. That's a lot better. I'm gonna put up one more comma here. And then underneath that, let's set up the IDL. And that's just gonna be equal to what we set up at the const, which is the stable pool IDL, which I know is just the Facebook underscore sol.json. Awesome. Then let's set up the program ID as well, which is essentially just the address of the deployed program that we set up way in the beginning, which is a stable pool program ID. Okay, then let's do a const program equal to new anchor dot program IDL program ID, comma. Okay, from there, let's do a return program and hit save. Cool. And with that, get program is actually feed is more. Now we can go back into feed, but that should be it for the initial setup. All right, continuing on with the feed.js, go ahead and in your components folder, let's create 2 new components. That would be the create post.js as well as another file called just post.js. Awesome. So I'm just going to set up the component really quickly using RAFC. Okay, going back to feed. Now that they exist, we can import them by saying import create post from create post and then import post from post. I want to come down and skip a line and then go ahead and write a variable called anchor, set it equal to require project serum / anchor. And then from that anchor variable, we're going to deconstruct it by getting the bn from there and web3 from anchor. Okay, next we're going to make a variable called utf8 and we're going to say anchor.utils bytes.utf8. Cool. Next thing I want to do is I want to destructure web3 and I want to get the system program. Okay, and the last thing we'll do at the top will be make a variable called default accounts and set it equal to token program. Set it equal to an object with the key of token program and the value of token program ID, which we got from Solana SPL token. Next, I want to set up this clock here, which is going to be anchor.web3.sysvar clock pub key. Awesome. The last key that I'm going to make here is a system program, which has the value of system program, which we're getting from web3.program ID. Amazing. So like I said, feed is going to be a very dense component. There's going to be a couple different functions on here that we're going to need to set up because it holds a lot of the logic that we're going to do today. So one of the first functions I want to make is a function called get all posts. So this function, like I said, is called get all posts. It does exactly what it sounds like. When in Facebook, we want to be able to grab all the posts we made. And remember, all these are going to be, and if you remember in our lib.rs, we have a function that creates posts. What we need to do now after we create them is to get all of them. So that's the job of this function. So we're gonna make it asynchronous and we're gonna do a try catch. And we're gonna have a try here, catch, which will just be error console.error actually, and then pass in cool. But in the try, that's gonna be the important part here. We're gonna do a const post data because every post that I get, I wanna store it in a variable. And I wanna say await program count, program.count dot post count dot all. Essentially, we're gonna go into the program and get all, we're gonna go into the program, access the account, and then access the post accounts, which is essentially just getting all the posts. So that's why we're gonna do a dot. From there, I wanna take my variable posts data and do a dot sort. Okay, inside the dot sort, we'll have an arrow function, which is gonna have a B so that we can sort all the posts by time. And to do that, I need to access the post time, turn that to a number that we can easily use, and then put -a.count.posttime to number. Amazing. All right, so setting up the sort like this, we'll sort it by the post time. Okay, cool, it's over. So now that's done, we just need to do a set posts and pass in that post data, which will be the sorted posts. Cool. Save that, and that's the get all posts. Awesome. Next function we're gonna make, let's make the saved post function. So coming down to line 38, I'm gonna say const save post equal to an asynchronous function once again, and set it up. So if you think about it, when you're on Facebook, you're writing up your post, you're gonna need to save the post to the actual app itself. This function is going to handle that. So one of the first things that we need to do is get the program address. All right, so to do that, I'm gonna set up a let state signer, because that's essentially what we want to get. So that's what I'm gonna call it. So I'm gonna say await anchor.3.public key dot find program address. Like I said, we want to get the program address of the state, parentheses here, and I'm just gonna encode it with UTF-8 code state, because that's what we're looking for. Go ahead and do a comma, and you also want to get program.program ID. Okay, underneath that closing parenthesis, let's set up a variable called state info, which I'm going to use in a second. And all this is doing is getting the state address from our program. This is just a variable that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use it in this try catch that I'm going to set up. And in this try catch, I'm going to take my state info variable and set it equal to an await program.count.state.count.fetch state signer. Let's go. Cool. All this is doing is fetching the state and storing it in a variable state info. From there, in the catch, let's do a program.rpc.create state. So if you remember what you guys did with Qazi, if you look at lib.rs, we are gonna call that create state function. And that makes sense because if we're doing this and we don't have a state, we should create one. So we're gonna do rpc.create state and pass in these parameters, which is just gonna be key accounts. It's gonna have the value of an object. So the state is gonna be the state signer that we set up before. And the authority is gonna be the wallet.public key, not the anchor wallet.public key, just the wallet.public key. Okay, and this should actually be lowercase as well. Cool. And we also wanna spread out the rest of the default accounts. Okay, and let's do a return. Awesome. Cool, so now we're out of that try catch block. In the next line, but still in the save post function, we want to do a let post signer. All right, it's going to be similar to what we did with the state signer. This time we're going to be getting the posts. So we're going to set that equal to await anchor.web3 publicly. Yeah, this one is the web3.public key dot find program address. And again, very similar to the last time, which is just UTF-8 dot encode. This time we're looking for a post, encode. This time we want to put post here, comma, state info post dot to array buffer, BE, comma, then there's a comma here, enter. And we also want to do something similar like program.program. So that's the post signer. Set up another try catch block. Okay, so now that we have the post signer, we can actually fetch the state that we want. So we can do await.program.count.post.fetch. And then, yeah, so what we're going to be fetching is what we got with the post sign. Cool. Then in the catch, this is going to update the state, which is this program.rpc.create post text name URL, and also pass in the object of the accounts, which has a value object, which has the state signer post signer. And again, if this isn't making any sense to you, that's okay. As we keep doing this over and over, you're going to start to notice patterns, and it's going to start to click real soon. So authority is going to be the same as before, which is wallet.public key, hit comma, and then we do default. Cool. So now let's update our local posts. So I'm going to say set posts, comma, await program count.post count.all to grab all of those post accounts. Cool. And that should be the save post. Cool. So if you're still watching this, that was the fun, amazing Solana stuff. Time to go to our usual bread and butter of the JSX of the feed component. And just to remind you, this is the feed of the Facebook, right? All the posts that you see. So in this return, I'm just going to clean it up a bit. And for the div, let's give it our classic name of style. Awesome. All right, so that's the outer div. What we want to do next is, remember the toast that we imported, we can get toaster now. And this is self-closing, and the attributes that it has is position, bottom left, because that's where I want it. And then we want the reverse equal to false. Okay, so now that our toaster is set up, next line, we want to set up another div. This one doesn't need a class name because we're going to do some conditional rendering here. So I'm going to make my curly brackets, and I'm going to say, again, this variable doesn't exist yet, but if loading is true, what we want to happen is we should have a div, and we should have this little like loading text that comes up. I'll say if loading is true, we should see the loading text. Okay, and I'm going to do the colon here, because if loading is false, then there's nothing loading. You should just see a div that has the create post component. So I'm just going to set it up, and we're actually importing it, I believe. We're already importing it, so it does exist. We're just going to be passing down a couple of things as props. So what we want to do is save post equals save post, all posts equals get all posts, and remember the name, and we also want the URL, right? Because there should be a name and the picture URL associated with the post. That's not all. We should also be able to map through posts, do a post.map, and for every single post in that array, we should make a post component, which we also set up. Okay, and each post component is going to have these props passed in, which is going to be post equals post.account, post equals post.account, view detail equal to get comments on post. We need a create comment equals save comment, and key equals post account.index, and of course spell it right, post account.index. Then again, we also want to pass every single name so we can associate it with the post. Then we're going to do URL equals EU. Okay, closing div, parenthesis, closing bracket, div. Cool, so that should be it for the front end, and that should be it for the JSX. Next, let's do the styling, and the styling is going to be all the way at the top here. Okay, and the styling for this isn't intensive at all. It's just going to be our wrapper, which will have a flex 1. Oops, flex 1. Nope, not that. Width to 1-4. Cool. And again, loading doesn't exist yet, so let's set up our states. So what we can do is take advantage of our use state, and at the top, underneath our style, we can do a const loading, and set loading is equal to use state true. Then we can do a const posts, comma set posts, and set that equal to use state array. Cool. All right, so that is the styling and the JSX, and we also set up the use state. Cool. So let's hop into the create post component that we made. And one thing we actually need to do is stop your terminal, and let's just get yarn. Let's just add another package, which is just going to be a yarn add react icons. All right, because for the create post, we're going to be using a couple icons from there. Cool. Once that's done, we have React icons now. So what we can do is come to the top here, and let's get started. So the first thing we can do is set up our hook, which is just going to be just use state for a create post. Nice. And let's also import image from next image, and let's import all the icons that I want to use, which is just the BS file image fill, comma, BS fill camera video React icons / BS. Cool. Then there's another React icon, not from BS, but FI, which is just FI refresh CW. It's this little refresh symbol that we're going to use to refresh our posts so we can see the updated comments. So we can do quotes React icons / FI. All right, so that's going to be all the imports that we're going to need for create post. I'm going to go ahead and hit, and let's work out the JSX. So cleaning up a div, Can you guys guess what would be the class name for this? You guys got it right, exactly. It is style.wrapper. Awesome. After style.wrapper, I don't think you guys will be able to guess it, but we should have some sort of form container because this is the component that's gonna let a user create a post. So it should be a form, but the first thing we need to do first is get the image. Let's get the image. Good thing we already imported it because the next step is just to add the source, which is gonna equal the URL, and we can add the prop, which is just quotes profile. Okay, from there we have class name of this image is style.profile image. Let's give it a height and width, kind of similar to what we did before with the last image, which is just height of 40, width of 40. All right, so we got the form. Let's give the form a class name. The form's class name is gonna be style.form. Style.form. And the very first thing in this form is an input. What's gonna be self-closing. Now let's work on the attributes, which will just be value equals input, which doesn't exist just yet. Then we have an change equal to event set input event dot target dot value. Basically, whatever I type in the input field is going to then update the input state. So if I type H, updating the state on change. E, updating the input state, now it says HE, right? And so forth. Cool, so now the function's set up. Then we can have the class name for this input field, which will be style.input. It'd be a good idea to put it in the brackets, so let's do style.input. And there's a placeholder, which you know what, if you guys use Facebook at all, it's that little cute message that says, what's on your mind? What's on your mind, Hassam? So if there's a Hassam's watching this, what's on your mind? Okay, cool. So that's the input field. The only thing we need now is a button, which is essentially just submitting the post. And this can actually just be self-closing. Style.hidden submit. And we're gonna have an on click, and it's gonna run a function called handle submit, which we're gonna be making soon. Cool, cool. Now I'm gonna take a moment to stop right here because I wanna set up the state as well as the function that we're going to be making. So let's just set up the state really quickly. So come down at the top here and I'll just say const array input comma set input. Now it exists. So we can say equals use state quotes, and then we can also set up the function, which is the handle submit one. This should be asynchronous with the event, and we want to do an event.prevent default because anytime we submit a form, it's actually going to refresh the page, and you don't want to do that when working with states because it's going to clear them. So we don't want the refresh, so we do prevent default, and anytime we press submit, we should clear the input field. So we have to do a set input to, and then we're going to do an await save post. Cool. Amazing. And now that I'm looking at this, I think I'm forgetting one thing, which is actually a form container. So in between the wrapper and the image, let's make another div here. And this is should be our form container. That should be its own div. Form container. And don't forget to put style.form container if you want to have your Tailwind working. And we can take this little guy and put it right here. Okay. Which means we can actually shift it over one. Nice. Okay, cool. This is making more sense now. And underneath this div, we want to make an actions container, right? So the actions would be that little part of Facebook where it says live video, photos video, or a refresh post button. So we want to set that up by making a div. And I said earlier, it's going to be class name style.actions container. Okay, we have a div class name to a style.action. And here we go. Let's start using our React icons in here. We're going to do the BS fill camera video, that's a mouthful, then do a class name of style.video cam icon, and so nice. Okay, and then in the very next line we want actually another div here, and that div is responsible for being the title. So give it the appropriate name of style.action button title. Okay, you essentially want to just repeat this process but have different things. So I'm going to copy this and paste it twice. Okay, but let's be sure to mess around with the content here. Instead of having BS video camera fill, what we want to have is BSS file image fill. And this, instead of video cam icon, let's do photo icon. And instead of live video, this should actually say photo/video. Cool, I'm happy with that. Going on to the next and final action button, this should just be the FI one, which is FI refresh CW. Change the name of the icon to refresh icon, fresh icon. And then we have a style.action button title with refresh posts. Nice. Okay, and then it should be closing div, closing div, closing div. Okay, cool. All that's left now is to do a bunch of the styling. This one has a lot more styling than the previous ones, so bear with me. So coming at the top here, I'm gonna say const style equals object, and let's define all the styles that we need. All right, first one, start from top down, which is just a wrapper. I'm gonna move through these fairly quickly. I'm just gonna be with 100% flex, and then we do mt-1 rem. And if you're ever confused at all about what I'm writing here, there is actually documentation on a conversion of what Tailwind CSS is to regular CSS. And that definitely helped me a lot when I first started doing Tailwind. So be sure to check that out. So there's flex column. You want to do a rounded dash. Let's see, let's do 0.6 rem and pg dash. Let me see what the color is for this again. It's gonna be hashtag 2526 again, like the we did before. P-2, pt-4, pb-0, and shadow dash 0 pixels, 5 pixels, 7 pixels, -7 pixels, and an RGBA of 0.75. Cool. Told you there's gonna be a lot. So this is just the wrapper. I'm gonna hit comma, and now I'm gonna start moving through these faster. Be sure to pause the video if you ever need to stop. So I'm also gonna do an Alt-C here so you can see it on my screen. So next thing I'm gonna do is the form container, which is just gonna be flex pb-3 mb-2 border-b, the border of this color. Okay, profile image, rounded full, object cover for the image. For the form itself, flex 1, and you want to do a item center on that, followed by the input, which would be something like this. Okay, we then have a hidden submit class, and that one's actually pretty easy. It's just going to be invisible. Okay, now let's style our actions container, which looks just like that. Yep, actions container, followed by the actions button, which has a lot more. Why is it the whole thing? Oh, I think I highlighted. Again, followed by the actions button, which contains a lot more CSS. This, we got the action button title, and all the icons are gonna have very similar styling. They're just gonna have a text red, text green, text blue for their respective ones. So hold on. Cool, and that should be it for the style, and that's the create post component. Awesome. All right, so one of the things that we need to do still is accept the props that we're passing down and destructure them. So if you remember going back to our feed, scrolling all the way down, we have save posts, get all posts, name, and URL. So that's what we're gonna destructure. So I'm gonna get save post, get all posts. I think it's like that. Yep, name and URL. Awesome. We go ahead and hit save, and let's just actually take a look what this would look like. So to do that, we want to go back to feed, and remember how we have, go back to index, and remember how we have the registered to false. Let's go see what it looks like when I set it to true. But of course, don't forget to Netlify compiling. There's an error. Okay, looks like we got an error. Oh, yeah, so going in my const, this actually shouldn't be curly brackets, should be just regular parentheses. So let's see if it likes that. Okay, I'm gonna try it again. Okay, compiling. Let's see if there's any errors with the code we have so far. It doesn't like the Solana web3.js. Cool, so we got another error expected from got string literal. Let's take a look. It's in get program. Okay, it's right here. Just have to add a from here. Why don't you guys tell me about it? It's gonna be a from. Let's save this. Can you compile again? Okay, this one, is it coming from the same spot? Acquire stack from Facebook. Okay, this looks like something we already fixed. So let's see if I refresh it. There we go. Beautiful. Cool. So like I was saying earlier, going back to the index.js, remember that if we are registered and it's false, we see this beautiful sign up screen. But if it's true, we should see fields. So we haven't got to take a chance to look at all the code we've written. So let's see if this breaks our code. So I'm gonna hit save. What does our app have to say? Okay, looks like nothing, which is interesting. Let's take a look. Let's do a quick inspect element. Let's see what's going on in here. Oh, it's right here. This is the home feed and it's loading. Okay, going to the feed.js. This is all the style for it. I guess in the meantime, guys, let's take out this is the home feed. And I believe we're seeing loading because we're setting loading to true. But if it was false, let's see what happens now. There we go, something. URL equals URL, it's undefined. Yep, that would be smart. We should actually go to the feed and accept those props and destructure. Cool, so let's actually get the name and URL that we're passing in. Name, URL, destructure them first. Name, URL, and I believe we should be passing one more thing in here. Let's see, we should be passing name, that's gonna equal name, and is going to equal URL. Still URL is not defined. Let's see, should be. I'll figure that in a second. One thing that we also need to add is a connected prop. So going to feed, I'm gonna add connected equals wallet.connected. right? And it's not capital W, be lowercase. And then if you're wondering where wallet is coming from, we need to go up under our states and let's use, and if you're wondering where wallet is coming from, we also need to import a couple more things in the index now that I remember it. Let's do that. Cool. And I added this by accident when I wrote capital wallet. We don't need this. What we do need though is to import use wallet. And we want to get it from Solana wallet adapter React. And once we do get that, this is where wallet is coming from. We can say const wallet is equal to use. Awesome. So now wallet exists. So if we scroll down, it makes more sense. And we're going to get URL is undefined. Let's just temporarily put a variable here. Or actually, it's going to say URL is undefined. Let's go to feed. It's also passed down connected. Okay, this is good because now we're getting rid of all the bugs before we move forward. Image is missing a source property. Now, where's this image coming from? Nope, not that one. Where's this coming from? Well, that's typo over there. Okay, saving, and it says image is missing source property. It's probably because there is no URL. So let's just get a temporary one. I have one in my notes. It's just gonna be this. Make sure it's in quotes. I'm gonna hit save. There we go. Awesome, so it works. This is exactly what we should see. And there's this nice hover effect to it too. Cool. All right, guys, so now we had our little bug fix break. Let's work on the post component. So the first thing I want to do is at the top here where it says import React from React, we can just say use state, comma, use effect. And let's also import the image from next image. And there's also a couple of React icons that I'd like to get that I have ready for you guys. It's going to be the BI like for reg comment alt, RI share forward line, and FI refresh CW. Awesome. Okay, cool. Then there's also going to be a comment section, import, Then there's going to be a component called comment section, which doesn't exist yet. So let's go ahead and just make it blank for now. I'm going to say new file, say comment section JS. Okay, there it is, RFACE. Okay, so we have the comment section. Now I can import it. Okay, there it is. Cool. All right, and then before we go forward, we also have to download JavaScript time ago. It's another package that we're gonna need. So that's gonna be an error because I'm stopping the terminal. I'm gonna do a yarn add JavaScript dash time dash go. Yep, so I'm gonna wait for this to install and we'll be right back. Cool. So now we have that package installed. What we need to do next is import ago from JavaScript time ago. Then we also want to import en from same place, but this time /locale/en.json. Cool. And if you miss our beautiful page, you can just go into terminal and just say Netlify dev again. All right, while that's loading, add default locale. And then within here, you can just type en to pass it in. There we go. Next, we can make a variable, call it const time go, and then set it equal to a new instance of time. And inside the parentheses here, we want to say en-us. Awesome. Okay, we should be able to refresh our page now. There you go. Cool. So remember how we imported use state? Go into your function-based component here, and let's just set up our use states, which is going to simply just be these two. The first one is going to be, is the comment section opened? And set is comment section open. The default will be set to false. And the next one is going to be const comments and then set comments because we want to be updating the comments of each post. Okay. We will be adding a use effect much later, but for now it's not nearly necessary. What I do want to do next is create a function, and that's going to be called clock to date string, and it's going to take and it's going to be a function that takes in a timestamp as the parameter. And here we can play with this variable that we made, and we can say time ago dot format new date, and then we can pass in there timestamp dot to number times 1000 quotes Twitter dash now. Okay. And then within the same function, we want to do const post detail. It's a variable that's gonna lead const post detail, which is going to be an asynchronous function. And const result equals post index post. And then we want to do a set comments. It's gonna just wait that result. Cool. Okay, and if you remember, inside feed, we have a post component that's going to be created for every single post, and we're passing in post equals post.account. So what we need to be doing, this is in line 24, post.index comma post. We need to be accepting all these props. So that's going to be post detail create comment. So I'm going to start accepting those props and destructuring them. It's going to be post view detail. Let's see what else. Create comment key name URL. Create comment key name, and I believe that's all. It's looking good. Awesome. So there's also more functions for this, but I think this is good for now. We have our function to convert our timestamp and format it. All right. I guess the next thing we should do is let's work on the front end of the post component. So I'm going to clean it up, and the class name is going to be style dot. Okay. From there, we're going to have another div within that, which is just going to be the post publisher. So it's going to have that name style dot post publisher, and inside it's going to contain an image, which will be self-closing. Inside that image, it's going to have a source property post.poster URL. Okay, then we have the class name, which will be style.avatar. That's what this image is supposed to be. Every time you comment on a post, you should see your avatar right on the left side of it, and that's what we're setting up right now. And the height of it is going to be 44, with the width equaling to 44 as well. Last but not least, we need an alt, which is just going to be publisher's profile. Makes sense. Cool. Directly following the image in the next line, we have another div. This one's going to be called the publisher details. This is going to include who's ever leaving the comment and the time that they left it. So that's why it's going to have a class name of style dot publisher details. Publisher. Okay. And it's just going to contain all the divs for each one, which is going to be class style dot name, which will contain, you guessed it, the post's poster name. All right, next line, what we need here is the timestamp, style.timestamp, which will make use of that function that we just created, which is the clock to date string, and we pass in the post time. Cool, which will format it to how we want it to look on the comments. Nice. All right, so after you do that, we have closing div, closing div, closing div. Then in here, in between these two, we're gonna have another div, no class name. The div inside of this though will have a class name, which is just gonna be style.text. All right, and within it, it's gonna be the post. Yeah, and I was saying comments earlier. All this stuff should be the poster's details, not the commenters. So like when you make a post, which will show up on the feed right here, that's gonna be a nice square. You should see a little profile picture with whoever made that post and the timestamp of when it happened, as well as their name. So that's what we're setting up now. This right here div is controlling what the content of said post. Cool. And then from there, we'll have a div, which is in charge of holding the reactions. So it's gonna be div, class name, style.reactions. Cool. These are where all our icons are gonna come in. We're gonna have another div that's gonna hold the reaction item itself, style.reaction item. And this one's gonna have the by like with some text that accompanies it, which will be class name, style.reactions text, and like inside. So it's gonna be a similar pattern with the other reaction. So I'm just gonna fast forward, get all the reaction items, typing them all out. So make sure you go out of this div and still inside reactions container, and then you can add everything else in, okay? The key point that I wanna drive home is that this specific has the on click of is comment section opened. And whatever it is before, if it's true, it will switch it to the opposite, which is false. If it's false, this not will switch it to true. Okay, that's all that's happening there. And it's gonna have the file reg comment alt icon, as well as the comment. From there, we also have another reaction item of the fi refresh CW, which is to refresh the post itself. So it will refresh the comments itself on the post. Cool. And then the last thing here, in between these two divs, the last thing we need to write is some conditional rendering of is comment section open. If that is true, we should see the comment section, which is again the component that we set up earlier. And the comment section, all it is, if you remember the posts on Facebook, there's gonna be a little box underneath it, which is gonna hold all the comments. We're gonna make a component for that and pass in certain props, which is just gonna be the actual comments that we have itself. Okay, so after our comments equals comments, next thing we can do is set up the view detail. That also function, nope. The view detail is going to equal the view detail, okay? Then we have the name is gonna be the name, and the URL is going to be the URL. Awesome, all right. View detail is something that we're getting from post, and the create comment and key haven't been, sorry, not key. I actually don't need key here, now I'm thinking about it. But as I was saying, the create comment hasn't been set up yet. Okay, with that said, that should be the post front end and one of the functions. Cool. All right, guys, now that we have our post component done, I want to start being able to test all this functionality. But before we do that, we're going to need to set up our context folder. So what I'll do is I'm going to make a new folder and I'll just call it context, right? Because we're going to be using the context API of React so that any variable or function that you're creating there can be used anywhere in my app because it's global. So in the context folder, let's make a new file, and let's say it is the use wallet balance.js. Okay, from there, there is a couple imports that we have to do, which is going to be import use wallet from @Solana/wallet adapter react. Hope these aren't the suggestions. Adapter react. Boom. Cool. Next line, import. We're going to import something from Solana web3.js, which is just going to be lamports per sol. And it's going to be from Solana web3.js. Next step, let's import all the React hooks that we're going to use for this file, which is going to be create context, use the context we create, and use effect, and use state. And it's all going to be from React. Cool. And we also need the T for create context. Nice. Okay, we're going to do another import, which is import star as anchor from @project-serum/anchor import Solana_host from the utils/cons. Cool. From here, let's do a const balance context equals create context, and we'll pass in null. Cool. From there, let's do a const connection, and the connection is going to equal new anchor.web3.connection Solana_host. Okay, then we can do an export default function use wallet balance. All right, and again, before I continue on this function, this is getting the connection of the devnet and storing it into the variable. And then on this next line here, we're actually creating a function called use wallet balance, which I believe is going to make a variable balance. And we're going to set that equal to our use context. We're going to be using this function later on in our front end of the header so that we can see that that user's wallet's balance, you can pass in balance context within here. Cool. All right, now that's done. We're just going to return the balance and the set balance itself. Okay, cool. Now for the important part, this one is for actually connecting the user's wallet. I'm going to say const wallet balance provider, which is an important part of the context. It's going to equal arrow function, and inside the parentheses here, object, and put in children. Cool. So that's the provider. Next thing you want to do is return the balance context provider, and in between it's actually going to take in children, and within the opening tag, and let me just fix this up real quick, and then with the opening tag of the first provider, we're gonna put value equals curly bracket and then square bracket. Anything I put in between these curly brackets is going to be global throughout my whole app. So what I want to do is put balance and set balance. Let me explain that again. So everything that I put in between these curly brackets is going to be global anywhere inside my application. Okay, so now that we set up the provider, one important step that we have to do is go into your pages and then go into _app.js, and let's actually set up our provider and wrap it around our app. Okay, let's import it first and say import wallet balance provider from .context / use wallet balance. So now we imported the provider. All we have to do now is wrap it around our app. So I'm just gonna format it like so. Enter, tab, put this guy down here, and let's format this. So what I wanna do is call that wallet balance provider, and in between, simply place the app. Cool. So now that you wrap the provider around our app, anything we put in value becomes global. So going back into our context, let's set up the rest of the wallet balance provider, which at the top here, we can say const wallet is going to equal use wallet, and use wallet, all it does is uses the user's wallet and sets it in a variable. Then we're going to do balance, set balance equals use state, because remember, this is for the wallet connection. The other one is for the front end. So I got to spell balance correctly. All right, we're almost done with this, guys. Let's do a simple use effect, which again takes an arrow function. And within that function, you're just going to do a semicolon async, semicolon parentheses async arrow function if wallet question mark dot public key. We're going to do a const balanced equals await connection dot get balance parentheses wallet dot public key. Again, it's coming from this variable. We're grabbing the public key from there and setting it equal to we're getting the wallet's public key, getting the balance of that, and setting it equal to our balance variable, which we can then do set balance, pass in balance, the variable, then do this / and do the lamp parts per sol. Okay, once that's done, I'm gonna put parentheses here, then do a comma, and let's set up the dependency module and pass in the wallet and the connection, because that's the dependencies that I want to look out for, because if the wallet changes or if the connection changes at all, then we should run the use effect once again. Okay, that said, only thing you have to do now is pass in the balance. So now it's not grayed out anymore, comma, set balance, and make those two things global. Okay, cool. Now that that's done, that should be the use wallet balance. All right, so now that our use wallet balance is done, I set this up because it's gonna help us create our next component. So our next component is going to be the header component. So let's go ahead in your components folder, new file, header.js. Cool. Test audio. All right, we're good. Cool. Header.js. Inside header, it's pretty standard. RAFCE, boom. And if you remember where is header located in terms of our app, you have to look no further than the feed.js. Sorry, not the feed.js. Look no further than the index.js. So coming up here, we have the header. We are safe to import it now. So we can say import header from components header. Cool. So now we have the header component in there as well. And you can see it's over here. So going to the header.js, let's set up all the imports that we're going to need. One thing I know for sure is that we're going to need our assets folder, which we can also provide to you. You guys won't have this, but these are the images that we're going to be using for our, I'm just going to copy it into here. Okay, cool. And at the top here, let's get our React hooks that we'll need, which is just going to be use state for this component. And in the next line, let's import the image from next. Okay. Next up, we have a couple of different React icons that we're going to use. I'm just going to speed through them. It's just going to be these over here. From here, I'm going to do another import, and let's get the wallet multi button. Right, and that's going to come from /wallet/ //UI. Cool. That's the wallet multi button. I think I spelled it right. And then if we do that, we're also going to need to require at Solana wallet adapter react-ui /styles.css. Cool. Okay, from there, let's get the Solana logo from our assets folder. Solana logo from assets/sol.png. Okay, from there we could do an import use wallet balance. And this is actually what we set up literally a couple minutes ago, which is just the context/use wallet balance. This is our custom hook that we set up inside our context here so that we don't have to import use context to use it in our header.js. All right, cool. At the top here, I'm going to say balance equals use wallet balance because I'm just destructuring balance from use wallet balance. And then from there, let's set up some front end. Setting it up, I'm going to do a class name, and I feel like I can hear you guys predicting on what the name of this class is. It's going to be style.wrapper. Yes, you're right. Okay, inside that div, I want to have a header. Because remember, the header is this top part of Facebook. There's like a left side, and then there's the right side. Left side should have the logo. So what I'll do is I'll call it style.header_left. And then inside that div, we'll have the image that we're getting from Next.js, which is going to let us use, which we can name it class name style.facebook. Okay, and the source, it's going to be this link. And remember, we set that up in the Next.js config. It's going to be this long one right here, which essentially is just the Facebook logo. It's going to equal FB logo. Height is just going to be 30, and typically the width will be the same, so it will also be 30. Cool, so that's the image. In the next line, we need another div. In the next line, we're going to need another div because in the middle of the header, you should have some sort of search container. So that's exactly what I'll call it, style.search container. Okay, let's use one of our icons, which is the little search magnifying thing, and it will have an input field where the type is going to equal text, and the class name is going to equal style.search input with placeholder going to be search Facebook. Okay, cool. So that's the input, closing div. And here we're going to have a couple other things, which is going to be the div for the header center part. So I'm going to give it a class name of style.header center container, style.header center wrapper, style.center icon contain. Cool. And inside here it's going to be an AI fill home. And this one will actually have a class name of its own. This one will have a class name of its own, which is going to be class name style.center nav icon. Amazing. So it should just be a closing div there. And now we have to make the rest of the icon, which is going to be very similar. So I'm going to copy this and paste it a couple times. I think we need to do this 3 times. So that's 1, 2, 3. What we do got to change is the type of icon that we're seeing. So instead of AI fill home, it should actually be BS display. for this, and the class name should be the same. Next is going to be the group to line, and this one's going to be the SI Facebook Gaming. Okay, closing div, closing div. Cool. And since we did the header left, the headers, let's finally do the header right. So class name style.header right. All right, so this header right, it's gonna have some conditional rendering as well. It's just gonna be name and parentheses. If name exists, then we want to do a div that shows that user's name. If you log in, it would be nice to see the user that's logged in. If you're not logged in, you shouldn't see it at all. So div class name, it's gonna be, div class name. This one's a little special. It's gonna have backticks in it with a $, a template literal, which is style.userinfo, and another $sign here for the template literal again. And then we're gonna do style.header right. Okay, cool. Looks good so far. Let's add an image. And this image should contain our profile picture that we've been using this whole time. And don't worry, I'm not gonna dealing with me because it wants a source property. For the source, all we need to do is use that URL again, a non-empty expression. Oh no, it's fine. Cool, so it's fine. Source equals URL, we're good to go. And let's just give that image a nice height of 20 pixels and a width of the same length. Cool. Give it a nice class name of style user image. And for the alt, give it the same name of user space image. Cool. And we're not done yet because along with the image, we also want to have the user's name, which should be dynamic. So in between these divs, we can put class name, not like that. In between these divs, we can give it a class name of style.username, and in between it, just pass in name, and that should actually be in curly brackets. Cool. And yeah, so if the user has a name, then we're gonna render this div with the user's image and their name that they have. All right. So after that, we can use that wallet multi button we passed in. Then we're gonna have a div with the class name of balance container. And this one's special too because it has backticks because we're gonna have a template literal, and it's gonna be style.balance container. And then also another template literal, style.header put, I believe. Yeah, awesome. And then in this div, it should also have an image, and it's just gonna contain a nice Solana logo because we want a Solana logo, and then how much Solana we have, and then how much Sol we have. So let's give this image a class name of style.balance icon, and src equal to Solana logo, which I set up in the import statements up above. Height 20 pixels, width 20. Okay, then I'm gonna say alt, and it's just Solana. Very cool. So that's the image. Lastly, we just need to have this div here, which is gonna just show us how much Sol do we actually have. So I'll call this style balanced text, which will contain curly brackets. Let's use that balance that we got from our custom hook, balance.toFit2, and whatever that amount comes out to, and then let's put Sol here. So it would say, oh, you have 2.333 Sol, for example. Okay, then it should be closing div, closing. Awesome, so that's the header. And we should get an error because there's no styles yet. So let's set up the styles. Yep, there's the error, but your hero is coming. I'm gonna make the style object. Cool. And there's a lot of CSS for this, so I'm gonna be moving fairly quickly. Feel free to pause the video to not miss a thing. For the wrapper, it's gonna have some flex properties, item center, width full, height with 4 rem, justify round, px-1 rem, and all of this stuff. I can't read out all the CSS or this video will be 10 hours long. So let's keep on. All right, next CSS, header left, which is that main div that holds all of this stuff that we need on the left side of the header, which is pretty much just the logo. This is what we want to add to it. Some flex with a justify center and a gap of 0.6 rem. Okay, next up, we're actually styling that Facebook logo, giving it an item center and an object contain. I'm going to do a 2-for-1 next, which is going to be the search container and the search input. Okay, cool. Then we got a header center container, which has just these three: flex 1, flex, item center, justify center, h full, and head center wrapper, which has pretty much similar things except for the py-2. Another 2, it's going to be center nav icon. Has a cursor pointer to it so that whenever we hover over it, it's going to have a different background, and it's going to have a rounded of 10 pixels. Here's the center nav icon. Those are all the icons inside that container. It's going to be all of these guys. Cool. From there, we're going to do the header and the header right button. This is for all the user info, which is pretty self-explanatory. This is the background. When I hover over it, this will be the new background. This has a bold font, text color black, format the image like that. And the rest of the CSS is for the balance, which is just going to be balance container, balance icon, balance text. So if it's save, let's hope it all matches up. Even if it doesn't, check render method of header. That's interesting. Oh, because name is not defined, we can't forget to pass that in. So I'm gonna take name and URL. And if we do that, we also have to go to index and pass it in as well. Just double check real quick. And if we pass that down, we have to pass it down in index as well. So I'm going to go to name, it's going to equal name and URL, simply equal. Okay, and let's go back to that component, which was, and save this. Expected a string. Just take a look. This is a capital U. That might not fix it, it might, but that definitely shouldn't be a capital U. Let's hit save, and there it is. There is our wonderful header with how much SOL, which should just be 0 by default. And then we can select the wallet too. Awesome. That looks good to me. Okay, cool. So that's the header.js. Is there anything else I need? No, I think we're good. That's gonna be the header.js. All right, guys, this would be a good point to create the rest of our context. What we're gonna need is a wallet connection provider so we can start selecting the wallet that we want. So go to your context folder. I'm gonna say new file, and I'll literally call this one wallet connection provider.js. Cool. Now that you're in here, let's import a couple things like the connection provider, and we also need a wallet provider as well. Let's do it from Solana / wallet adapter dash. Cool. So we want the connection provider and the wallet provider from the Solana wallet adapter React. From there, there's a couple other providers that we need. Well, just one more really, which is just the wallet modal provider. And that's gonna come from the Solana wallet adapter React UI. And let's also import the Phantom wallet adapter because I'm gonna be using my Phantom wallet for this project at Solana / wallet adapter dash wallets. Finally using that package. And we're actually gonna use a use memo. That's actually gonna use the use memo hook from React. Awesome. So that's pretty much all the imports. Let's actually set up the provider itself, which is going to be const wallet connection provider equal to children. Oops, not capital C, children. And inside the provider, we're going to need to have a return. And remember all those providers that we did import, wrap them up in here. So the first one is the connection provider. This one actually has a attribute of an endpoint, which is just going to equal endpoint. And then within that provider, we have the wallet. And inside of that, we have wallets equals wallets and auto. Then let's set up our modal. So let's do the wallet modal provider, which in between them, it's going to take children, and we can't forget to do an export connection provider. Hit save. Don't forget to do an export default wallet connection provider. So at the top here, let's set up what endpoint is. So it's going to be a variable that's going to equal that use memo that we were to use memo. We're going to have an arrow function. We're going to have an anonymous function that just has quotes to the https :/API.devnet.solana.com and comma array. Cool, that's the endpoint. Next, we got to set up the wallets that we will use, which will again equal use memo. Another anonymous function here, and inside is an array with new Phantom wallet adapter. So that's where that comes in. Open the parentheses. Outside that array, we need the comma and then another one. Cool. This is looking good. I think that's it for the wallet connection provider. Of course, if we're going to set up a provider like this, we need to wrap our app around it. So going back into the _app.js, one thing I want to do is at the top, import dynamic from next/dynamic. Oops. It would help to spell this correctly. There we go. And essentially, I'm getting dynamic so that I can split my code into dynamic chunks. Let's do a const wallet connection provider equals that dynamic parentheses. And inside those parentheses, we have function with an import parentheses of ... /context/wallet connection provider. Cool. And just take out that little C that I have there. Wallet connection provider equals this. We're importing that context from the provider, and all we need to do is wrap this whole thing in that. So enter, let's type it in, wallet connection provider. Okay, copying everything inside here, pasting it, save, refresh. All right, let's see what's going on. So it's back in here. Let's do an inspect element, see what's going on. Everything seems to be fine so far. Camera just died again. All right, so it's loaded in and it looks like there's no real errors. Let me just make this bigger. Inspect element. All right, yeah, no big errors, which means if we did everything right, I should be able to select wallet. And there it is, Phantom is detected. I do have Phantom installed. That's the wallet that we're gonna be using. And if I hit click, enter my password, view wallet balance activity, request approval for action, sure. Hey, there we go, nice. This is super cool because before we were just using MetaMask authentication to log in and we just started using Morales. But now we're experimenting, we're working on Rust, and we have Phantom wallet set up too, which is cool. So now just to move forward, let's update our signup.js. Let's update our signup.js and let's make a function called create user. Okay, const create user is going to be an asynchronous type of function, and it's going to take an event. And all it's going to do for now is going to be a set registered to true, right? Because after we sign up, we should be able to create a user. And once we do create that user, we should see the feed instead of the sign up page. Okay. And what we want to do with this function is put it onto the, so going back to the form, we should have an on submit here. On submit equals create user. All right, so it's going to equal that function. It's going to call it that, hit save. And we should also go back to the index, because remember how we set it default to true? We can set this back to false. Hitting refresh here after setting this to false. So it should lead me to the sign up page. Cool. And it wants me to sign up with, it wants me to sign in with my Phantom wallet again. So let's just unlock it. Cool. So let's test out if the sign up works. And if this works, we should get to the feed. So I'm just going to say the name is Lance and the profile image URL. Oh, don't know what happened. 1 second again. So we're back in the sign up page, and I just want to double check something before moving on. Going to sign up again. I do remember there's 2 input fields. This one was name, and yes, this one should be URL. So I'm gonna hit save, which will probably reload this. Once that's done, I think we're good to go to actually sign up and see if this works. There it is. There's the URL that was passed down. And for the name, it's just gonna be Lance. So I'm gonna click sign up, which will take us to this point because of the conditional rendering. And now what we need to do is make a post. We did all this code to create a post. Let's see if it works. So I'm gonna say hello world and be very basic. Okay, so we have a UFT8 is not defined. I just remembered, I think it's because I spelled it wrong. Try this again. I'm gonna say hello world, hit enter. Oh, now it says program is not defined. All right, yep. This is why we test stuff. We're running into some bugs saying that program is not defined. That's probably because if you go to my feed, there's a couple things we can set up now. So I can say const wallet is going to equal user, and that's just coming from an import at the top. Then I'm going to do a const connection is equal new anchor.web3.connection. And this makes more sense why this was grayed out. I forgot to do this. We're going to do okay. And then from there, now we can define program by saying const program equals get program instance connection comma wallet. Cool. So we're going to get the actual RPC and set that equal to a variable called program. Cool. So there you go. Program is now defined. We shouldn't see that error again. Let's see what other bugs there are. Hello world take 2 or take 3. Default accounts is not defined. That's why this should be default accounts with an S. Awesome. Let's try this again. Lance, sign up. Let's make a post. Hello world. Oh, it's going to have to ask me to sign, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we want to improve the transaction because, all right, I'm an idiot, guys. I forgot I'm trying to create a post without any Solana myself. So let's actually go to the faucet and get some Solana. We can actually get Solana from going into solanafaucet.com. So I'm gonna go into there. So this is the Solana faucet where we can actually get test the Solana for our apps that we could use. So we're gonna need to enter our Solana account address. And one cool way to get your account address is remember those providers that we set up? You can go ahead and click this and you can actually copy the address. Isn't that awesome? So go to Solana faucet in the input field, just paste it in there and I'll just airdrop myself. So let's see how much Solana I have now. We got 8. You know what? I think I'll be cool with 8. I'm gonna go back onto here and let me just refresh this to make sure I have the right Solana. Right. Oops, I clicked disconnect. Cool. So now we refreshed it and you can see it's updated. It's accurate. I have 8 Solana. I have 8 Sol. So I'm gonna go put in my name again to sign up and then let's try this bad boy out. Okay, that's a good sign. We want to approve transaction. I'm gonna hit approve, nothing immediate. So I just want to double check that. So if you click refresh post, it should actually refresh it and get all posts again. So coming down to refresh post. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. We also need to have an on click here. Got something. Program.rpc.createPost is not a function. Oh, I see. I think I know the issue. Let's feed in line 82 and we can fix it by putting a lowercase o. Nice. All right. So we just recently passed in the get all posts because I want to see and I want to get this button working so that I can just constantly click this button instead of refreshing the whole thing and signing up. So what I'm going to have to do is go into here and do an on click, and it's going to run the get all posts function once it's clicked. So I'm going to do this and do a get all posts. I'm going to hit save, and just to double check, is there anything going on at the moment? Okay, no errors yet. So I know that if I do this and I do get an error, we're gonna run it through. So I'm gonna say world, you got the transaction. Get comments on post is not defined. So let's double check what that is. Get comments on post. This doesn't exist yet. I haven't made this. So for now, let's just take it out. I'll hit save. Cool. Let's just try this one more time. I'm gonna do login with Lance. So none of the comment stuff should be working. So that's why we're getting all these errors. That's line 114. Yeah, it doesn't exist yet. We've only worked on the post things, and that's what we want to test right now. So I'll just comment that out as well. Am I using it? Nope. Cool. Nothing immediate's popping up. That's from before. Save comment, errors from before. Oh, let's go. There's an array. Okay, we got accounts. This is coming from my console in line 46. All right. So just to make sure these arrays are coming from my console of the posts in line 37. And I believe we have 3 posts. We have 3 hello worlds. So what I'll do next is let's close this console. I want to make this bigger. Let's see if refresh post works. And if not, we're just going to have to refresh the page. Okay, I clicked it. It wasn't doing anything. So let's just refresh it. So this is progress, guys. We're able to actually see the post in our console. The next step is let's see if it can actually get populated now. Okay, and nada. I refreshed it, so I want to just see if my console is still empty. Oh, it's empty again. Interesting. Right, it's empty. Try to refresh post. Refresh post isn't running. Let's see if this on-click is even working. Let me just do that now. So let's see. The refresh post should come from here. All posts. A console.log. All right, because I just want to check if this function is even running. Oh, I got it. So I refreshed it and it got the array with an extra hello world now. Interesting. Okay, so it looks like we're actually getting the posts, but there's nothing rendering. We just need to add a return here, because if we're going to put curly brackets, you're going to need to have a return. If we didn't have the curly brackets, we can make it a nice one-liner, and that doesn't need a return. So if I hit save, how to compile, this might take a second, and we should get something new. Style is undefined. All right, so let's just do that really quick, and let's work on the style for the post. All right, so that's going to be an important issue. We just need to add this styling to our posts. So what we can do is come to this line right here, and let's just do a const style. Const style equals that, and the wrapper, the most outer div, is gonna have all of this. Let me do an Alt Z. Cool. Yep. With 100% MT 1 REM, rounded 0.6 with this background color and a white text, and P-0.4 REM. So that's the wrapper. The next part, and again, I'm gonna be moving this next part is the post publisher div, which is gonna be the next div inside. It's just gonna have a flex position relative and an center. I'm gonna do 2 for 1 in this one, which is just the avatar. It just has rounded full for the CSS, and publisher details. It will just have a flex column and ML-0.5 REM. Next thing I want to do is let's set up the name and timestamp, which is just gonna be these two: text small, and text with that color. Speaking of text, there should be CSS for it, which is just going to be those 2 properties. These 2 are pretty long. It's going to be the reactions container and the reactions item, which just has a border like so. Text that is 18 pixels, flex, justify evenly, text of this color, and a cursor pointer pin py-1. Here's the reaction item, which is going to be, we're just going to have a flex property, a flex of 1, an item center, justify center, and rounded 0.4 EM, along with a nice hover effect with that background color. Cool. The last 2 are pretty simple, and it's just gonna be the reactions text and the refresh icon. So that looks a lot better. We actually have some CSS for the post itself. And after all that, our Phantom wants me to reconnect. Don't worry, Phantom, I'll reconnect with you. Cool. Let's hit Lance, sign up. Okay, getting posts. Hey, let's go, finally. Look at that, all my hello worlds that I set up, they're finally showing up. Okay, cool. I think it's because I wasn't directly clicking the icon. That might have been it. Or either the page was still loading. But there we go. We're able to get posts now. Now the real thing that we need to start working on is how can I start adding comments, creating them, and then getting all the comments, right? So I think that's the next thing I'm going to tackle. But this is cool, guys. We can actually make posts for Facebook, and all these posts are being stored on the blockchain. Amazing. Cool. So before I move on to creating comments, one thing I'm noticing is there's no timestamp, so I just want to double check that in my post component. So scrolling down, we're getting the timestamp from clock to date string, but am I calling it? Yes, I am. So it's not returning anything. Let me just double check this function. First thing is the post detail. It shouldn't actually be in the clock to date string. It should be its own thing. And now that I'm seeing it, I could make this a one-liner. That's probably why it's not returning anything. So if I hit save now, hey, there you go. So 32 minutes ago, 33 minutes ago, 35, 42. Nice. So we got the timestamps for it. Let's go ahead and start making the create comments functionality. Cool. So one of the first things we have to do is hop into your Facebook Sol and go into your programs and go into your source. In your source, you're going to do a lib.rs. Before we can even create the function to create comments, let's create the context and the structure of what a comment might look like. So here we have the create state struct, the struct for create post. Let's do one for comments. And it's going to be this, what Qazi explained earlier is all going to apply for this one as well. So at the bottom here, the first thing we're going to do to start creating the create comment context, we need to do a hashtag derive accounts, just like what we did earlier. And then from there, we can do the pub struct now. Pub struct create comment, and we're going to do this. Okay, and then we're going to do info here. Then we can put the cool. So now to carry on, we need to authenticate the post account. So to do that, we're going to do a hashtag brackets account mutable, say that's mutable. And for the seeds, it's going to equal this array. So to type this carefully, it's going to be b post as ref. And it's going to be comma post dot indexed dot to b bytes dot as underscore ref parentheses and then the square bracket, and then all I have to do next is a comma and bump. Awesome. And then in the next line we have to do a pub post and set the value of that to be a count with the info comma post count comma. There we go. Okay, that's the first part of that. From there we're going to need to authenticate the comment account. So to do that we must set it up like this again, which will be the account parenthesis here, and there's going to be a couple of things in here which is going to be init. Let's get the seeds comment dot as ref comma, and it's going to be similar to what we had set up over here, so we're just going to put the same thing, which is just post dot indexed dot to underscore b square bytes parentheses dot as underscore ref parentheses. Then we're going to do a comma. Here's where it gets a little bit different. This one should be post dot comment underscore count dot to b bytes, and then this should be inside the brackets dot as underscore ref. That one is a doozy. So let's go here. Let's see so you can see the whole thing. Then it should be pair equals authority and space. We have to determine the exact space in rest, so it's going to be space is equal to the size of the comment account. And then we also have to add the other stuff because I'm literally telling him that the space of the comment will be however long the text is. So text.length, we're going to pull that here. However long the username length plus the user URL dot, which we set up at the top of this. Okay, and then under this, we have to do the pub comment. There we go. Next, I want to set up the authority, which the authority, this is the signer who paid the transaction fee. So that's going to be set up hashtag count mute, and next line. That's all we're going to need for the authority. So we're going to do pub authority signer. Okay, let's do one for the system program. So I'm going to say pub system underscore program. It's going to be the unchecked count info. Okay, then we have count. This is for the token program. So I'm going to do count. This one will be constraint. It's going to equal the token underscore program equal to and token. Right, it's essentially a check to make sure that the key of the program is the same. And we have the ID here. Just need to add the pub token program, which will have the value of program info, I believe token. Makes sense. Cool. Last one, we just need to set up the clock to save time, which is just going to be pub clock sysbar info. Cool. And again, if this is still not making sense to you, don't worry. We're going to have more and more videos in the future, which will go more to each aspect of the programs in Solana. Okay, awesome. But for now, bear with me. We're almost there. So this is the structure for the comments. All right, so I'm gonna hit save. All right, so we finished the context, and you're gonna see a couple errors because we need to create the structure of the comment, okay? And if you're wondering what that is, you can think of it as an object with keys and values describing what a comment account would have. So that's gonna be the commenter's name, his URL, which is his profile picture, and his public key. These are all information so let's create that comment account structure. So to do that, you can just say hashtag account bracket account. And then from there, we can say pub and let's define the structure. So comment account, cool. So I'm basically saying every comment account will have a key of authority. So I can say pub authority, which is just the assigner address. Okay, and then it's gonna have colon here. It will also have a text key, and here is gonna have the value of whatever text we pass in the create comment function, which I'm gonna do next. Okay, then you need to know who is the commenter, what is his name? That's gonna be important information. Commenter name, string, comma, okay, the commenter's URL, so we can get the nice profile picture along with the comment, which I'll say string as well. Then from there, we need, let's get an index property in there, and the type of that will be a U64. Nope, not U128, U64, okay? And I would also like a post time because I need to keep track of that. So this one's actually gonna be I64, cost. So that's the structure of the comment account. Okay, hitting save, and just gotta add a comma here. See, hit save, boom. So no more squiggly lines. Pro comment account is in the scope now. So just to recap, we created the context, we have the structure of our comment account. Now we just need a function that's gonna create the comment itself, okay? So it's gonna go all the way to the top here, where before we started creating structs, to these functions. These are all the functions should go. I'm gonna make another one. So I'll say pub fn for function, and this one will be create underscore comment. Now, putting parentheses here because these are all the parameters that I want for this create comment. And what we're gonna pass in is the context that to let them know you guys are going to be getting a comment. So I'll say context create comment, cool. And now we also have to pass in the parameters, because when you create a comment, you're gonna need to pass in a couple things and then add it to the structure itself. So what I mean is for the text, we're gonna get text as a parameter. We also have to define the type here. So it's gonna be a string. We're also gonna pass in the name of the person that is creating the comment. So I'll say string as well. Commenter's URL, their profile picture essentially. And I think that's it for now. And of course, we're gonna do this arrow here. And let's talk about what the result of this function would look like. So program result, I believe it's like that. So let's do it. That post is going to be equal to and mute ctx.accounts.post. So this is what we need to do. Let the post be equal to the context.accounts.post. If you're panicking about this little variable here, you're gonna need to have the OK, which we have in all the other functions, and then it'll go away. Cool, awesome. So I'll just leave that for the very bottom, but let's set up the rest of these variables. So I wanna say let comment equals and mute. This one will be the ctx.accounts.comment. Okay, and of course, you're gonna need to have a semicolon on this. Okay. Cool, hitting save, that all goes away. Cool, so remember how we made the comment account data structure of what it would look like? Now we're just gonna add values to each of those things. So if that makes sense to you, you can move right along. So down below here, let's talk about the comment.authority. So what we wanna do when we create a comment is for the value of the authority, it should be the actual authority of the account that's leaving the comment. So to get that, we can do ctx.accounts.authority, and we'll pass in the key by doing .key parentheses. Okay, cool. So now we need to set the text of the comment, and the text will be whatever is passed in for the text. So you can just say comment.text equals text. All right, this isn't scary. You guys have been following us. This should be a piece of cake. Commenter underscore name. We can do equals commenter underscore name. All right, so then we can do a comment.commenter underscore URL, because I believe that's how I named it, equals comment URL, right? Which is just the parameter that's passed. So then we do a comment.index, and the index is going to be based off the post's comment count. It's smart how we do this because indexes start from 0 onwards, but the count starts from 1. So there's always one ahead, and we can use that as the index. Okay, from there we can do a comment.post underscore time, and that's just going to be the ctx.accounts clock to get the time .unix underscore timestamp. Okay, cool. And of course, if we're going to be using that index, and then last but not least, we also need to increase the post.comment count over here, because otherwise every comment going forward would be at the same index, right? This fancy little trick is not going to work. So we're going to do a, not comment actually, it should be a post All right, that's why we set it up earlier. Post dot comment underscore count. We're grabbing the count and let's just increment it by, we can just simply do a plus equals 1 semicolon. Beautiful. And there you go. That should be all the comment stuff for this program. There's a triple equals here. This should just be double equals. Save. I should be fine for now. The important thing to note is that we just created a new function that set up context and created a new struct. We're gonna have to redeploy the program again. So that was the step that you guys did with me at the beginning. Let's go ahead and get that done. All right, so in this section, we're gonna be redeploying our program because we just updated it with all of the functionality of creating comments. So to get started, you gotta make sure you have some Solana inside your terminal. So just to make sure, I'm gonna do a Solana airdrop. Okay, so make sure you have enough. I have about 9. I'll just do 1 more. And you can do this if you have the Solana CLI tool downloaded. Cool, so it looks like we have enough. That should be fine. And again, when we transitioned, we're gonna do those same steps. We're coming full circle, guys. So going into Facebook Sol, go ahead and delete the target folder because we need to generate a new program ID. So I'm gonna delete target folder. All right, there we go. Target folder is deleted. Let's go ahead and do an anchor build to compile our updated program. Okay, and you guys know this process takes a couple minutes. So we finally deleted the target folder. Make sure you cd Facebook. And then from here, we want to do the anchor build to compile our updated program. All right, we're getting an error from our anchor build, something in create comment program. There you go. That was it. Cool. Yeah, so just double check the spelling is good. If you have that N in there, that's probably why. So let's try this again. Anchor. Awesome. That's what we like to see. A successful compiling of our anchor build. Next, let's just deploy. Okay, so I'm gonna do anchor deploy, and this should generate us a new ID that we're gonna update our build with. All right, guys, we're 2 for 2. We got a new program ID, which means we can finally replace it. So copy that new program ID. It's gonna be different from than what I have. So just take yours and your declare ID here, because now this is reflective of our updated program. And you wanna take that same ID, head over to your anchor.toml and change this as well. But you guys knew that. At this point, we are deep in. So let's save. And if we do this, we have to do an anchor build and anchor deploy again. So anchor build first, but remember this time we don't have to delete the target folder. We just have to do an anchor build. All right, anchor build's done. Just do an anchor deploy, and this should spit out the same program ID because we didn't delete the target folder. And once that's done, beautiful. Okay, now that it's deployed, let's move on to the next step. All right, so now that we updated our program with all the comments functionality, let's start working on the front end. So just a quick recap, this comment section component is coming from the post one, because for every post, they're gonna have a little comment section. Makes sense. So going into the comment section, the first thing I'll have you do is let's import our hooks that we'll use. So we're gonna use state from React, and there's gonna be 2 components that we're gonna get from here. They don't exist yet, but we can create them. So in this comment section, there lives a comment.js, which I'll set up real quick, as well as the actual create comment component. Okay, oops, too fast. Boom, create comment. Awesome. So now that those components exist, we're free to import them. So I'll say import comment from comment. Let's also get the create comment. Cool. That's done. That's all the imports we're actually going to need for now. So let's accept those props that we are passing, which for now is just comments, view detail, and name and URL. Yep, cool. And then from there, we can set up the rest of our divs now. So let's get started. Okay, so first div, style.wrapper, not style sheet. After that, we want to take the comments that we are passing down and then map through them. So I'm going to do comments.map. And we want a function within here. And we want to say for every comment, we'll also get index involved in here and pass that as the key. And then what we want to do next is something like this, where we can say comment, and pass down those props. So the comment will be comment, the key will be just index. Cool. And then we can close it also. Awesome. So for every comment, we're going to create a comment, passing in what that comment is, along with a key with an index that just gets generated and increments for every comment. Makes sense? Cool. So from there, we also have the create comment component. So I'll say create comment. Nope, it is actually self-closing. And within here, we also need to pass in a couple of things, which will just be the rest of the name equaling the name and the URL being the URL. Cool, and that should be it. Now think about it, we're not really using view detail here, so we can actually remove it, which means we can go back to post and remove view detail here, because we're gonna be using it for something else. Okay, awesome. That is the create comment. I think the next step that I'll do is let's set up the comment component itself. So I'll be going into here. And for the comment section, this is just going to control quite literally the comments underneath. There will be a comment component for that. So the first thing we should do is import image from next image. Okay. We also want to use time ago because along with the comment component, we should see a little image of the person leaving the comment as well as a little timestamp of when they. So we say time ago from JavaScript time ago. Import n from JavaScript time ago /locale/ okay, cool. Then we want to do a time ago dot. We did add default locale and that gave us an error. Let's just do an add locale and pass an en. Then we're going to do the exact same thing as last time, which is make a variable called const time ago equals new time ago. Say ne-us. Cool. And what did we pass down into comment? Probably just comment. So we can say, we'll take that comment and now we can set up, and we'll come back for the style in the comment section in a bit. So coming down below here, all that we're going to need to do for this is let's actually set up an empty fragment, and then we can put our comment wrapper. It's not just wrapper anymore. Style.comment wrapper. Div class name. This one I'll call it the profile image container. And judging on the name, you guys could probably tell that we're gonna have an image here. All right, I'm gonna give my little image a name as well, which will just be style.profile. The src will be equal to the comment.commenter URL. So I'm just taking advantage of the value of the comment. I'm just taking advantage of one of the keys inside the comments, which will have the URL in it already. So I can say height equals to 40, the width equals to 40 as well. Cool. And then there's going to be a sibling div to that, which is going to have its own class name as well, which will be the actual comment container itself. So there was a container for the image, making a container for the comment. Let's say style.comment. Okay, awesome. So let's make another div within the comment container. And this one is simply going to be called style.name because it's just going to contain the commenter's name. So we can just pass down the comment object with the and get the commenter's name using the key. There we go. That would make it dynamic. From here, we just have a normal div, no class name. You can just say comment.text. Okay, closing div. And then there's like a little section here, which is a sibling of the comment wrapper, which is why we're using a fragment because it needs, all of these guys need at least one parent. This one is going to be style.comment actions container, right? Because in the comments itself, there's going to be a couple actions that you can take, or it looks like that you can take and reply. That's the actions that I'm talking about, the like and reply. So make a div for that and let's set up those action items. So we're going to say div class name style.action, then we do a like, and we need two of these because there's n reply one. All right, be sure to change the text inside the second one, but it will have the same div. Cool. And the last one here is going to be a div for the timestamp. So I'm going to say div class name timestamp. Okay, time go format. Let's get the new date object. Date will be comment.post time, and we got to convert it to number times 1,000. We did this similar. It's similar to what we did before. You then have to do a comma, and the format of this one is going to be Twitter now. Okay, cool. And that's actually just the comment section. So what I'm going to do is now add all the styling on top of it. So since we're already in comment, let's add the style. So coming at the top over here, I'm going to say const style equals, there you go. So styling the wrapper first, and it's not called wrapper. We've been using wrapper so much, guys. Let's do a comment wrapper and let's give it a flex property. Cool. So next I'll have a profile image container. This one will have an object cover R of 2. Okay. File image. I want it to be rounded and I'll say full. Rounded dash full. There we go. We have the comment container. Then we have comment container, which will just be a background of, I have here, hashtag 3A, 3B, C. Cool. Then we have rounded 2x1 and a text white py-2 and a px-. Okay, that looks good to me. Comment container. And like I said, I want to start moving a lot more faster with the CSS because there is a lot of it. So I'm going to quickly go through the next ones. So this is the remaining CSS. It's going to be the name with this text color. The text is going to be small with the semi-bold font. And for the comment action center, we'll have the flex item center, a gap of 1 rem, ML 3.4 rem, MB 1 rem, MT1. And here is the action item. which has a cursor pointer effect. That's the only notable thing, and a timestamp with this format. All right, now let's do the styling for the comment section itself. And it's gonna be super intense. It's just gonna be one thing, just the wrapper. So let's make this style object and do const style equals, and our really intensive styling will be just wrapper, and it's just gonna be with full rounded dash b large, and space p dash 5 pixels, flex, justify center, and justify center. We want flex direction of column, border dash t, border gray, give it that gray color of 300, and the border itself will have this 3a 3b 3e. Cool. And last one is pt. Awesome. So that's it for the wrapper. And let's see the create comments next. Okay, so now I'm in the create comment section. To set it up, let's get any hooks that we're going to use, which is just going to be the use state, and it shouldn't be a dot, it should be a comma. There we go. Let's also get the image from next image, and there's a couple of React icons that I have for you guys, which is all of these, and we're just passing in name and URL for now. So let's set that up, name, comma, URL. Yeah, so this is the create comment field. So there's going to be a little input field where we can type in our comment, and then we should be able to hit enter. So let's make a state that keeps track of the input variable, and we can come down below and start making the JSX. So to get started with the JSX, I just quickly formatted it, and let's just give this a class name. So I'll do div class name equals style.wrap. From here, we're gonna have a div, and that's just gonna hold the image. I wanna give my image a name of style.profile image. The source will be the URL that I passed in. Height will be 44, and width be also 44. Okay, and the equal the profile image. All right, so let's get to the fun stuff, which is going to be the input container itself. So that's exactly what I'm going to call this one. So I'll say div class name style input, and inside this input container we first need to set up the form. So I'll say form. The form has a couple things inside of it, which is going to be a class name of style.form, and it will also have a on submit, but I'll set that up in a bit. I want to just finish the rest of the JSX. So let's say, so for the input field, the type will be text, the placeholder will be write comment, and the class name will be style, no quotes, style input, and the value will be input. Okay, and there's like a function on here, but I'm going to set it up. There's also a function on here, which will be an on change, because every time we write on the input, there's a change. We want to update our input state. So I'm going to say e set input, and then we do like a e.target.value. Nice, cool. That's the form. Underneath, there's these input icons, I'll call them. So we'll do a div class name and call this one actually input icons. All right. So from there, this is where we're going to insert all of the React icons, which I already have prepped out, which are just going to be these. All right, and then line them up so it looks nicer. There we go. Cool. All right, and as you saw, we're going to have on change, but we also have an on submit for the form, which is just going to have a post comment. Okay, and let's create that post comment function, which will be at the top here above the return. Let's go. So to make the function, you're going to say const post comment equals async, and we'll do an event with an arrow. And we want to make sure we do event.prevent default, because when you're working with a form, every time you press or submit the form, it actually refreshes the page. We don't want to do that for our app because that would reset a lot of our states, and it would make you have to input a lot of the information in. So we want to do wait create comment for post. One sec. All right, cool. Yeah, so we want to, inside the post comment, after we event.prevent default, we want to do this function create comment for post. And if you guys are unfamiliar of what this is, it's essentially a function that we were supposed to make earlier, and we're going to pass it all the way down. We haven't made it yet because it didn't make much sense. So for now, I'll actually just comment it, and we'll work on the full comment functionality in the next part. So comment that up, clear the input after we type it in. There we go. So that is all the front end portions of this. But before we finish off, actually, we should do some of the styling. Cool. So coming at the top above this function, let's do a const style equals and do a wrapper with the flex items. Okay. Then we're going to do a profile image rounded dash, and there's the input container. This one's a bit of a long one. It's going to be flex1 h10, this background color rounded full px of 1 rem. Cool. The rest aren't too bad. It's just going to be a flex, give it a flex1 items dash center, and let's style the input now. So we're just going to give it with full make the background of it transparent by saying bg transparent. We'll give the outline none, and for the input icons, let's do a flex and item center as well, and let's give it a nice gap of 0.4 rem. Okay, icon, which will then be cursor dash pointer. Text will then be hashtag 96A9AE. Awesome. This is all of the front end styling for each component. For the comments, let's work on the functionality now. Okay, in this section, we'll be updating our feed with all of the comment functionality for our app itself. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is go back to your feed and let's make a function, and it's going to be called get comments on post. So coming down here in a new line, 1 second, let's make that function. So I'll say const get comments on post. It does exactly what it sounds like, which is fetching all the associated with that post. So we're going to do something like this. There we go. And make sure it's asynchronous. Let's insert a try catch block. And for the catch, it's just going to be an error and a console.error and pass in the error. Cool. So now for the fun part on the get comments in this try block, let's get the post address. So let's say let the post address equals await anchored web3.key. This is the capital one. Public key dot find program address. And then from there, we're going to do the UTF-8 dot encode. This time I'm going to make sure it's spelled it correctly. UTF-8. Yep. And we'll do a post index dot to array, and we'll do a buffer for BE, and just do an 8 here. Awesome. And we also want program ID, right? Because the first step to getting all the comments, we also need to get the post and then get the comments within that post. So there you go. Then we can say const post equals await program count post and it'll say post address. So just like before, I was explaining this like a signer. This is really just the address of the post. So we're going to do a let comment addresses, right? Because there will be multiple comments associated with the post, and all of this is stored on the chain at different spots. Comment addresses, let's initialize an empty array, and we're going to populate it with all the comments. So in here, we're going to make a for loop. So say for let I equals 0, I is less than post dot comment count, right? Because if you remember when we were the post structure, it keeps track of how many comments there are. So we want to take use of that and do a nice to number here. And so essentially for every comment, we want to loop through each. So if there's 3, we're going to loop through all 3 and make it to number to I plus. Awesome. And then we want to read the state on chain. So let's also get the comment addresses by saying comment signer equals await anchor dot web dot public key. And then we want to find program address, put the parentheses, and again put in that array where we do the UTF-8 code again. This time we put in comment and we say new bn with the index dot to array like, and we're going to do a buffer e8. Okay, and then we're going to do a new bn I dot to array like, and the same thing, we're going to do a buffer again, be and an 8. Yeah, bn is just a serialized big number. That's all you need to know. Don't worry about it too much. And then after that, we can just do the comma program ID again. Okay. And for every comment that we do get and encode, we want to be pushing. So we want to do a comment addresses, which is that empty array that we set up. And we'll do a push method here and comment signer. All right. So essentially, we're just pushing all the comment addresses that we get into this array. Okay. And that's it for the for loop, but there's still a couple more pieces of code. I want to make a variable called const comment equals and await for the programs count, because for every program there's like an account storage. I want to get the comment count and fetch multiple, and then you can put comment addresses in here, and that's all going to be put into that variable. What we can do from there is similar to what we did when we grabbed all the posts, is actually sort all of them, and we want to sort it in order. So a.post time dot number minus b, the same thing, b dot post time to number. And after it's sorted, we can just return the sorted comments, and it should just be the catch. And there we go. Oh, yeah, there's a spelling error. Nice. And that is the get comments on post function. Awesome. So the next thing I want to do is another function called save comment. All right, so this one's going to be asynchronous as well. And it's going to take in a couple parameters, which is going to be the text, the index, and the count. We'll just do an equals arrow. And let's get the post address again. So I'll call post signer equals await anchor web public key find program address. Okay, here we're gonna do the utf8.code again, and we want post. Want to put post there. We do the index to array like again with the same parameters of buffer, be, and 8. Then outside the bracket comma, program.program ID. From here we can do the try catch block. Catch, we'll do an error and then console.error again. Amazing. Now in the try block, the purpose of this function is to save the comment. So let's first get the comment address. So I'll say comment signer is equal to await anchor.web3.public.find the program address. Okay, this is very similar to literally to what we just did. And instead of post, we want comment here. Then do the index.to array like, the 3 parameters, 8, comma here. Then we want count.to and 8. Then a comma and program.program ID. Okay, there we go. Next thing we want to do inside this try block is let's have an await, take that program, then do a .rpc .create comment. So we're actually talking to the function we made, which is to create a comment. Okay, is to create a comment, right? So if you remember that function that we made earlier, it's gonna take 3 parameters, text, the URL, and then there was a context part of it. That's what this is. And that's why I'm going to say an object, comma object. And for the first key, it's a count. And for post, we do the post signer or post address comment, which is the comment signer that we got. And for the authority, that could just be wallet's public key. So we can actually write wallet.public key, then comma, and then you want to just spread out default accounts. Cool. After that, we want to do an await program.account.comment account.fetch and get that comment. Okay, and after that's pretty much it. So that's all the functions that we're going to need for the feed. One thing I would like to do now that we have everything is set up all my use effects. So if you remember, use effect is a hook from React that's going to run different side effects at different stages of the component's lifecycle. So what we want to do here is set up the first one, which is going to be a use effect. And the use effect takes 2 parameters, the side effect that you want to perform, as well as the dependency module, which I'll just initialize as empty for now. And within the use effect, let's set up an interval. All right, this is just our interval to constantly get all the posts. Because if you remember before, when I made the post, it's not actually getting them until I click the refresh post button. This use effect is going to get it. It's just going to make another call to get a post after the certain time of the interval. So let's do a set interval here, and let's do an async, and we're going to do an await get all posts. All right, so now we don't always have to click the button, and let's give it 2000 for, that's how long it will go for, and then get all posts just to get the initial get all posts out the way. Then we can do a return to clean up the interval that we set up, to clear the interval and pass in that variable. Cool. For our dependency module, we care if the connected state is changed and if the get all posts is run. Okay, so those are the 2 things we want to put for the dependency module. So with that in my get all posts, there should be a set loading here and turn that to false. All right, because once we get the post, it shouldn't be loading anymore. All right, so then when you set this set loading to false, after we get all posts and we're about to set our data, we'll set the loading to false so that we won't see this like loading div that we have set up in our conditional rendering. We would see the posts that are there and the create component. Awesome. All right, cool. So that's that first use effect. I think there's one more, and that's going to be, the use effect for the actual toast itself. So coming to over here, let's make another use effect, and here we'll get toast. And what we want to say is post refreshed. And then for the icon, it's actually going to be an emoji. So that I have that over here. And for the style, it will be something like this, where we have a border radius 10 pixels, background hashtag 2526, and the color is going to be hashtag FFFCF. Okay, cool. And like I said, use effect takes 2 parameters, the second one being the dependency module, and this is gonna run when post.length is updated or changed. Okay, and it's not post, it's posts with an S. Hit save, and there you go. So that's all the functionality for the feed. Only thing that's left now is to actually pass everything down. So if we come here, we can comment these out now. So we have get comments on post function that we made at the top here, and we're passing it as view detail. For the save comment function we created, we're passing that as create comment. Okay, cool. So if we're passing this down into post, we should head there. So I'm going to do this, and let's get to the post. And then in post, let's come up to the top. We have the view detail and create comment, and the create comment. Okay, it looks like we're not using the create comment yet in the post. So that's set up. That means we have to set up a couple of things in the post component now. So we have something called clock to date string. That's good. We have the post detail, and we also need to make another function here. So let's do a const create comment for post. That's what this function is, and it's going to be asynchronous. I'll have text, and this is where we're going to call the create comment, and we're going to say text post.index and post.comment count. Okay, cool. So that's the function for there. And while we're here, let's also do the use effects, which is going to be a use effect over here. And for this use effect, all I'm going to do is just call post detail because we weren't calling it yet. That's calling post detail. And for the dependency module, it's just post detail, right? That's important. So now this function is actually running, and we're actually using view detail here as well. Okay, so that's use effect is done. Second one that I want to do is if the comments.length is greater than 0. So what I want to do if the comments.length is greater than 0 is make use of our state, which is comment section opened, set that to true. Okay, and we're going to constantly check that depending on how many comments there are. So if the comments state is updated or changed, it will then run the check to see how many comments there are and the length of it. Cool, so that's the use effects. Then we have a create comment for post. This is going to come down to the comment section, and this will be the last thing we pass down. Comments for post, set that equal to the same thing. Now it should start to make sense with what I did earlier when I did an await create comments for post. So I'm gonna hit save, and let's head over to the comment section. I think I see it right here. Let's accept the create comments for post. Create comment for post. We can say create comment for post is equal to create comment for post. Then let's head over there to the create comment. Aha, there we go. It's all coming together now. Create comment for post. Cool. So this shouldn't be grayed out anymore. We did a create comment for post. Let's see. There it is. Awesome. All right. So I'm noticing we're not using name. So I think it's safe to just get rid of it. Cool. And then if we go back outer component, we don't need to pass down name. We just need the URL and create comment for post. Awesome. All right. With that said, I think that is all the functionality for the comments. We updated a lot of our components with their use effects, and we should be good to go. All right, so the only thing left to do now is to test out the comments. So, which means we're gonna have to start our server up again. Okay, I just did an NTL dev where it looks like we're already getting an error in my feed. I think I know what it is already. We should have a comma there. So line 160, okay. Oh, that's the same error as before. Let's just hit a refresh. There you go. It's all loaded now. No errors. And Phantom wants me to log in again. So there we go. Nice and updated. For name, Lance, sign up. So let's go to that use effect. And that's in post. All right, so it's saying doesn't know what comments.length is. This shouldn't be square brackets, guys. It should be curly brackets. Okay, now let's see if that's good. Could it still be reading the length because we initialized it with an empty array? Let's see what we got. There we go. Awesome. So now let's take a look. Let's do Lance, sign up. And again, cannot read properties of defined reading length. Let me just comment this out then. And let's just console log what comment. It should be an empty array, and we should be able to see the length of that. So now let's try this again. As I was saying, we need to get to our utils folder. And if you remember in our const, this is why. This is the old program ID. So let's give it the new one. And if I remember correctly, you can find that in the anchor. Here's the new program ID. Copy back to my utils. And if you do this, make sure you update the Facebook_soul.json because this is from the old one. So what we're going to need to do is get into programs, go to target. Yep, literally go in the IDL folder and let's copy that guy. And what we're going to do is paste it into, well, we can delete this one, the old one, delete that one, paste in the new one. And I also want to just reset my terminal. All right, X these guys out. Yeah, there we go. So we updated our IDL. We also updated our constant.js. We just got to hit save. And now when we log in, we shouldn't see the hello world post that I set up because this is a whole new program. So in this program, they don't have any posts or comments stored on chain. So there you go. So if you ever wondered how to reset your posts because you can't delete them, you'd have to just redeploy your program. So let's do a Netlify dev and let's try this again. All right, here we go. It's loaded back up again. Let's make this bigger. We can actually select our wallet. There we go. Connected our wallet, Lance, and let's see what happens. Click sign up, post refresh. there should be nothing. Nice. Let me just check my console if there's anything that's not showing up. Let's go. We have a brand new app, right? New app because there's no post from leftover. So let's just take this time to use a checkpoint. If you guys are still watching the video, you guys are fucking crushing it. So leave a comment down below, something like this. Let's say golden. Whatever you say golden, I know you're watching this. If I don't see golden, I know you haven't made it this far. So I'm actually gonna make that a post as well. So let's hit enter, right? We got the Phantom wallet because we're gonna be storing that post on chain. This is the network fee, super cheap since it's Sol. Let's approve and let's wait. Oh shit, there we go, let's go. This is actually really cool, guys. Like we're actually writing to the Solana blockchain and storing our posts on there. So now the fun part, let's do a comment. Let's see if this works now. Oh cool, so yeah, it popped up. Let's say, where's my post? It's right there. So let's hit enter. We see errors because that means we just have to fix it. All right, create comment for post is not a function because I'm taking it as a lowercase. Create comment for post, comment for post. Yep, it's really case sensitive. Awesome. So if I hit save here. So I did some testing. It looks like it's a function here, and that's because this is also lowercase f. Okay, that saved me the headache. Let's go with that. I'm logged in as Kevin. It's right there. Enter. Nice. Okay, that makes me happy. We're actually seeing an approved transaction sign. So let this load. I'll hit approve and let's see if anything comes up. So it seems when I refresh the page, it works. And I was wrong before, this actually isn't set up yet. So I think what we'll do next is let's set this up. That's gonna be inside post. There's a refresh comments button here. We just need to add an on click to it. Okay, yeah, so I want it so that if I click the refresh comments, it should be able to refresh. And I pointed out that it actually doesn't because there's no on click set up to it. So we're gonna add the on click of post detail here, okay? Remember, post detail was up here and it's gonna set the comment state. Awesome, so I'm gonna hit save and let's just do some more testing. So I'm gonna hit refresh. All right, let's make this one fun. I'll be Qazi for this one. And let's change this from Lance to Qazi. Enough, there you go, we're a different person now. And, oh, that's right. If you go into the use effect, I commented out, so we should bring this back in. There you go, so now with this commented back in, it should load the comments if there are one. Just for fun, let's make a post. Let's do shout out build space. So they do a bunch of cool stuff there, as well as we are partnering with them to make these cool builds together with you guys. So let's see if Qazi can make this post. Let's do a fresh post. There you go, there it is, shout out build space. Awesome. So as Qazi, I'm gonna put some comments to continue testing this. Let's say, hey, I think it approved. And it usually takes a couple minutes as well. But this is so far so good. Let's hit refresh comments, see what's going on. So this is just the first two comments still. There it is, just took a second. There's the hey. We got the comments and we got the post functions working. This is super exciting, guys. There's not much more left. So if you made it this far, you have an amazing app on your hands. All we have to do now is let's work on the right sidebar and the sidebar itself. All right, guys, I'm getting super excited. We have the functionality, the core functionality of our app working. We can make it look even better because the reason why it's all stretched out is because we should have these sidebars in here. So if you remember, a long time ago, we made that in the index. So let's go ahead and work on. So temporarily, I'm just gonna make this smaller and this one bigger so that we can work on it. So in the index, we have this sidebar here. Let's create that component. Say sidebar.js. This is the sidebar for the left. We can say RAFCE. And while we're here, let's also get the right sidebar JS. Okay, and we can do an RAFCE. Cool. Okay, now that we have that done, going back to index, we can start importing them. So I'm gonna comment this guy back out. You can actually get an auto import by doing something like this. Okay, and then we can also do the auto import for this. If you delete the first two, type in the R and there's a suggestion, I hit tab, go, close it, and if you look, it's all imported. It's nice, cool. And you can see that it is taking up some space here with the right sidebar and the left sidebar. Let's go ahead and code this out now. So going to the components, let's do just this sidebar and let's get set up. All right, for the sidebar, it's actually not much. It's literally just front end. All the imports that we're gonna use is the next image as well as the stuff from the assets folder. So this is everything right here. So it's just image from next image, all these icons that I have set up, and there we go, okay? Another thing I'm gonna do here is const sidebar data equal to an array, and it's gonna be an array of objects. which is going to have, each one is going to have an icon that holds one of the icons like icon, as well as a title for friends. Okay. The idea here is that we're going to map through this data, and for every single object in this data, generate a component for it. Sorry, not generate a component. We're going to generate some JSX for it. There it is. That is the friends one. And it's not, title's not friends icon. It actually should just be friends with quotes. Nice. Okay, so that's it for the first object. Same thing for the rest. So let me include a comma in here, and we'll copy this about 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And be sure to change each one. Don't leave them in there. So let's do a friends. Let's do a groups. And this one is called groups. Then we have the marketplace icon, marketplace icon. And this one is just marketplace. We got the watch icon, which will just be watch. You got memories, and we have the drop down icon with the see more. And this is just completely static data. Awesome. So we're using all of this now just to come down here. Okay, let's set up our JSX. Div class name style.wrapper, div class name, and in here we'll have the image style.profile for the src. It's going to equal URL, and the height we'll give it 30 for 30, and for the alt it's just simply profile image. And again, if you're wondering where this URL is coming from, we're going to be passing it down with the class name of sidebar item, style.sidebar item with, okay. And if I said save, it's because there's no style property. That makes sense. I'm gonna just quickly put this in here before I forget, the structure name and URL, and I have to pass that down later. All right, so this is the fun part. We're gonna do a sidebar data, right? That's the variable we created earlier. Yeah, sidebar data. And like I said previously, we need to map through, and then let's put parentheses here. And for every sidebar data item, and we also want to do a comment in there, we want to generate some JSX for it. So actually don't need curly brackets. We can do something like this. And here we can put the div that we want to generate. It's just going to be class name style.sidebar row with the key of index. Because each generated item from here should have its own unique key prop. Okay. And then inside this div, I want an image. And that image should contain the image of the object that we passed in. So class name is simply just going to be style.sidebar icon. src will just be the sidebar data item icon, and height 30 and width 30 as well. Okay, alt is just sidebar. Awesome. Last but not least, we have another div here. This one's going to be class name style. There you go. Similar to the one, it's literally the same as the one before, except what goes in here is going to be the sidebar data item dot title. So that's the friends, the groups, the memories, the see more. That's what it is. And so we can stop seeing this error. We just have to add our style object. And just to go through it really quickly, this will be the CSS for it. Since the fun functionality is mostly done, let's do an Alt B and Alt C. And there you go. So this is the wrapper, the sidebar row. It's really long. We have the profile image, sidebar item. Nice. Okay, and we can't really see the sidebar. One thing that would help it is to actually pass down the name and URL. So we'll go in here. Let's do name equals name and URL equals you. There you go. Let that compile. And let's see if we can make this bigger. Oh, it's asking me to connect my wallet again. And then, like I said, let's be Qazi again. And I think I put that here as well. Oh, sidebar is not defined. Let's see, style. Yeah, I just forgot to put style in front of that. There you go. Hey, okay. So again, Qazi, I am using this dice bear thing, and all I have to do is just change this and you can get a different profile picture. Hey, that's nice. Okay, now I think it's just the text color that I need. White. That's not the right color. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, and then it should be white. Is it even there? I'm highlighting it. Oh, so it's not even there. That's because this should be sidebar data item dot title. And now it should work. There we go. And now it's looking amazing. So this is the sidebar. If you hover over it, it has this nice effect. Cool. So now we just need the right sidebar, and that's going to be all the front end functionality. So let's work on that. All right, so we'll be working on the right sidebar now. And one of the first things that I'll do is get my import stuff ready. So I'm going to get import image, next image, import. So there's going to be another component here, and it's going to be called contact. And before I can actually import it, I need to create it. So I'm just going to go to components, new file, contact.js, REFCE. Did it too fast. There you go. That is the contact. Now I can import it. So let's do import contact from contact. And that should be it from now. what I want to do next is set up the JSX. And for this one, I'll have the usual, which is just style. Okay, div class name. Oops. This one will be called title, and the title will be sponsored. Style.ads container. This will be the actual ad itself. So you'll say styled ad. Then for the class name will be a style dot. And then within the ad div, we also want to have the add image container, which will host our image. And the image, just to keep with the theme, this. All right, excited for you guys to see that one. So you'll see it in a second. So that's the source, and just format it so it looks nicer. There you go. Yeah, for you, it could be whatever you want. I'm gonna do a height 100 and width of 100. Okay, and then for the class name, I'll call it add image. And you're gonna guess what it is from the alt that I'm gonna write. It is good old CP logo. Okay, cool. All right, so that's the image for our CP logo. We got a closing div here to close off that image container, but we still have to do the rest of the, and my quick ad for you today is gonna be, we are the #1 channel for blockchain development. Let's go. Yeah, where else are you gonna see a huge project like this where we get on-chain comments on the Solana blockchain? So shout out to Solana, and thank you to the CP team that worked really hard on this project. So let's do a class name for style. And if you're interested in more of our stuff, head over to cleverprogrammer.com. I just did an ad while I was coding. So that's 2 closing divs. And then we also have another one here. All right, so we're gonna have another ad, and it's gonna be pretty much the same convention. So I'm gonna go down below here and hit paste. The only thing that's different is the image and the little description that I have. So let me get the image for you guys, okay? This is the image, awesome. And the alt is not the CP logo because this ad is brought to you by Solana. Right? And then for Solana, they have this little nice tagline that is awesome, which is going to be powerful for developers and fast for everyone. Fast for everyone. And we just put for their link, it's solana.com. Okay, cool. Those are the ads, closing div, closing. So those are the ads that we have. The next thing that I want to do is set up this really cool thing. So the first thing I'll make is this self-closing div called div, and I'll call it, and I'm just using this div essentially as a divider. So that's what I'll call it, style.divider. Cool. Okay. Let's do another one with the class name. This one will just be the title, and it's gonna say contacts, right? Because we can do this cool thing where we can set up Sanity to grab all the users, and those will display as our contacts on the right sidebar. Okay, so let's make a container for those contacts. Call it class name contacts. Okay, and here we're gonna have to stop for a second because we're gonna need to create a users object. Let's make a static set for now. So I'm gonna make a variable at the top here. Let's say const users equals, and let's set up that array of users. So it's an array with an object, and each object will have their wallet address, and it will be just the user, which should just be their name. So let's put, we got Kevin, we got Qazi, we got David in here. They're all gonna have the same user. Let me just double check real quick. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna make a static object of users, which will just be an array of objects, and we can give the same keys and values for all of them. So for the wallet address, you can give that the value of mine. They're all gonna have the same wallet address, okay? And then there's just the URL, right? So what's their profile picture? I'm gonna make it nice. I have a random one that I could use. And this guy, we'll just have a name. 1 second. I'm actually gonna call this profile image, and we'll keep that as name and the name. I did Kevin, I did Qazi. We also should get David in here. And we can't forget about Mana, and cool. But they're all gonna have the same picture. I won't go that far for them. So let's go. Yeah, so now that's done, we just gotta set up the users and map through it. So I'm gonna do users that map user array, and we'll do a return contact with the key equal to that user's wallet address. We set that up, and we can pass in the actual object itself because we're gonna be mapping it out later. Cool. So that is that. Mapping through the users. Don't hit save yet because we'll get an ugly error. What you wanna do now is set up the styles. So again, I'm starting to go through all the styles fast. So let's do a const style, and these are all the CSS that we're gonna need for the right sidebar. This is the wrapper, the title, the ads, the ad, the image container, and everything else. Cool. So from there, let's just work out the contact, and we'll be all done with the right sidebar. Okay, for the contact, let's import image because for every contact, I wanna use the image. So let's do from next. There we go. Import image from next image. And we're going to destructure the user from it. And just to set up the JSX, we can do one of these. The first div will be called contact. Nope. style.contact. Inside that div, this is where the image will go. The source will equal the user, and I believe I called it profile image. Then we did a height 40 and a width 40. Then we got class name equals style.contact image. Okay, and then last but not least, the last thing inside this contact div will be another div, which is just going to hold the username. So I'll call this contact username, or contact name for short, and it'll just hold user done. All right, cool. So we can save this, and we just need to get the styles. And again, here you go. This one's short. Again, feel free to pause the video if you need to catch up on the styles. Here's the one for contact. Don't worry, I'm going back. Here's the one for the right sidebar. You got it? Cool. So once you got it, let's hit save. Should be no errors. But of course there is one, and it's because it's on the right sidebar. We just need to close this off. Hit save. Let's make this bigger for the presentation. While it's connected, let's go as Qazi again. And again, this is the default profile URL that I set up. I'm just gonna change it. Hey, there we go. The whole team is in the app. Got Qazi, Lance, Kevin, and David, Monat, and Frankie. And there's our 2 ads. It looks like just like the real thing. Shout out to Solana and shout out to the team. So there you go. That is all the front end functionality of our app. The only thing left to do is to connect Sanity to the whole thing, which we installed earlier. So let's do that. All right, so now that we're almost done, let's finally go and set up our Sanity routes and make calls to that database, because we had it set up way back, but now we're gonna come back to it. So what we wanna do is go to our pages folder, and under API, we have a hello.js here. We don't need that. We're gonna be setting up new ones. So delete hello.js. Let's make a new file, and let's call it create user.js, because this should actually create a user on Sanity when we set it up. So the first thing we have to do is, remember way back when we set up the client, let's actually set it up. So import client from /lib/ there you go. So we're importing the client. Then we're gonna do a const. The name of this is gonna be create user on Sanity equals async. We'll do a rec res, and then from there we can do a try catch. Okay, try catch is just gonna have, and if there is an error, we're gonna do a res.status of 500, which means internal server error. Then we can send them a message with an object as a parameter, and the message key with the value error, comma, and the data value will be error.message. Now for the try, if we're going to be creating a user on Sanity, we want to be creating a user document. So let's set up that user document by saying const user doc, actually, because we can call it that, and put in the keys and values we need, which is the type of document. This is a users. I want to talk to that part. And the ID, we just have to get the user's wallet address for the ID, okay? And then now we can actually fill out the fields, or the fields of the user, which was, I believe, name. The name, we can just do rec body.name, do a wallet address, user wallet address, wallet. We can do a rec body.user wallet address, same as the ID. Then we can do the profile image of that user, and let's just grab that person's profile. So rec.body profile, cool. And that's not all. In the next line, so we want to have an await. So that is initializing the user doc. Here we're actually going to create that doc. So we'll say client.create if not exists. Sanity has this cool method that if the document does not exist, it will create that document. It automatically checks for us. And if it doesn't exist, create it. If it does, just leave it alone. Cool. And last but not least, we have to do the res.status here so that we can send a status of 200, which is okay. And for the message, you can just say success. Cool, so let's create user, pretty standard stuff. Next thing you wanna do is make an API route to fetch the users, right? After a while, we wanna be fetching every user in our database and then in our context. That's how we have this static David, Amana, Frankie. So you can visualize it. So in the API folder, I'm gonna make a new file and say fetch users. Yes, same procedure as the create one. We're gonna import the client. So we got the client. Next, we're gonna do const get user info, and make that into an asynchronous function. Did I make that one asynchronous? Yes, I did. This one will be rec and res, just like the last. And we have to catch is literally the same as the one before. So I'll just type it out. Cool. So that's the catch for the try. To get all the users in our database, we need to query for them. So we can say const query equals something like this. And what we want to put in here, I have the query saved up in my, it's going to look something like this. Yep, this is what we're querying for. We want the users and their names, wallet addresses, and profile image. Cool. With that said, that is the query. Now let's put these into use because this is just the API. We need at some point in our components, we're going to be using. All right. So now that we made that, let's actually start using them. Oh, so now that we made it, don't forget to actually export them. That's what I was thinking of. You got to export default, get user info so we can actually use them in other places. And same thing with the create user. I want to do a export default create user on Sanity. Awesome. Yep, cool. So make sure you export them. And then to actually start using them, we're going to head to the sign up component. I believe this is where it is. Yes, cool. So we have this create user function that we set up a while back, and all it does is set registers true, but what it really should do is make a fetch call to the API we set. What we need to do is make a variable called resp, and it's going to equal await window.solana connect. Solana.connect. That's what we want. All right. So yeah, if you're wondering what this is doing, we're getting a response from Phantom so that in this next line, we can say const wallet address and use that response dot public key to string. So this is how we can get access to our Phantom wallet's address. So I'm going to store it in a variable because we're going to be using it later. We're going to be using it to create a user. So from there, you want to do a try catch, and the error, I'll just make it now. It's just going to be console.pass in error. Okay, and for the try, this is where it will fetch that API route. So what I'm going to do is do an await fetch, and let's call it and say API/create user. Yep, it should be the same name that we called it. There you go. Awesome. Just wanted to double check. Now we're good to keep on coding. And before that closing parenthesis, put these curly brackets, because now we need to put the method, which will be post, some of the headers, content type, and application/JSON. It's pretty standard. And there we go. That's the headers. Next part, we want the body JSON.cool. And here, this is where in our create user on Sanity, we had the rec.body, and we got the user wallet address, the name, and the profile image. We're gonna set that up here. So we're gonna say user wallet address has the value of wallet address. Name is name. Profile image is going to be event.target.url.value, and that's how you get the image. Amazing. Cool. So when we sign up, it's gonna create a user on Sanity. Okay. And while we're here, let's go to our index. So let's do one of these. Awesome. And for our index, we should actually have a use effect set up. Okay. And yeah, like I was saying, we're going to have the use effect here, but before we can make the use effect, we should make request users data. And this is going to be an asynchronous function with active account as the parameter, because we want to grab all the users, but we don't want to grab the user that's currently active. If Lance is logged in, we shouldn't see Lance in the context. So, and if you watched our Tinder app, we did something similar to that as well. So let's do a try catch. I'll finish out the catch first, which is just error and the usual. Okay, but in the try though, we want to do a const response equals the await fetch and then the API route. Okay, and the const data is going to equal await response.json, and we're finally going to be able to use our user state to say set users as data, and then console.log users, and then show me the data.data just so I can see it. And that's it. Request users data. From there, we just need to set up the use effect now that we have the function. It's pretty small. It just looks like this. It's a use effect that has an asynchronous function inside. And in that asynchronous function, it's an await to request users data. And it's only going to run just one. That's interesting. Okay. One of the last things I want to do too is, create our function, which is the something's happening. Oh, it's the API to fetch users. Oh, I see. It's because if I go to Control P and then do fetch users, let's see. Yep. Forgot the arrow function here. Go hit save. And one thing I wanted to do here. Okay. And as that's loading, one thing I want to do that I just remembered underneath create user, I want to be able to generate a random URL. That's how this random button works. To do it, it's pretty simple. I have the code snippet for it. It's just this. It's just generate random image URL, and you just want to set the URL to be just a random avatar from Dice Bear, right? And we're making it random by just using math.random. We can add onClick into here. So let's do onClick equals, and then we'll say the generate profile image. So I'm just gonna refresh this one more time. And also, I think I can actually make my URL blank now. So as I was saying, now that we have the generate random profile image, we can probably make this URL blank again. So go to your index and make it blank. And before I hit save, what I want to do next is pass down request user data all the way down to my right sidebar. So let's go down to right sidebar. So then for the right side, we can finally pass down stuff into it. And what I want to pass down is just get users, and that's going to be equal to request users data function. We also want to be passing down the list of users, and then we also want to pass down set users. Okay, there we go. And that means we can go into the right sidebar. Pause it for a second. Okay, cool. So now I'm in right sidebar, and let's actually accept the props that we're passing down, which is now get users and users. And I had set users, but now I'm thinking about it, we don't need to pass that down. So I'm going to go here. I can take it out. Just two things for the right sidebar. And going to here, now that we have get user, which is really just request users data, what I want to do is set up a nice use effect underneath my style, and we're going to call that function. So I'm going to say use effect. And did I import you? Yes, I did. I didn't import it like that though. So I could just do this. There you go. That's the use effect. Inside, we can make an arrow function, and I want to run an asynchronous one. And all we're going to do within here is just use the get all users. Make sure you have get and await get all users. Cool. And this little guy right here, put a dependency module. Cool. And then we have users. We are now passing them down. And if I save this and go to, I believe, contact. Oh no, it wasn't contact. I remember making a list of users. We actually don't need that anymore now that we are passing it down and we're getting them straight from Sanity. So let's save. So saving all that. Now it's just left to test it. Let's test up all our routes and see if they work. So another thing that I'm going to need to do, go into my terminal. And if you guys remember, we have to cd to studio, and then we can do a Sanity start. Okay, let's compile. God, the camera died. Oh, 1 second. All right, so it looks like it finished loading up. Sanity started, so we can go to localhost, and instead of 3000, 3333. And we haven't made any new users because we just set up those reps. So if we sign in or sign up, this should get populated with a user. Cool, so let's give this a try. I'm gonna say lint, already an error, image with the missing source property. 1 second. All right, we're getting this error when I start typing it in. My guess would be that it has something to do with the header. And if we scroll, yep, I think it has something to do with this, because if the name exists, which there was when I press L, there should be a URL. And remember, we removed the initial one. So we want to say or, and hold on. What was I saying again? URL. Oh yeah. So I was saying this is trying to generate URL that doesn't exist. So what we can do is URL or put a default one like this. Okay, let's hit save. Phantom is asking me to connect. They're all connected. If I type in something here, will it die? Nope. Cool. So it just generated the random image that I have there. That's what the or is doing. But what we can do is put in my name. Now we have a different logo, which is a random logo, and you can just cycle through them and change it if you don't like it. Let's just pick this one. I can't really see it. I'm gonna pick sign up. Now, is our route broken? Probably. Oh, now time for the debugging part. Undefined reading map sidebar. Okay. Oh, so in the right sidebar, there's no users yet. So I guess what I want to do is take this list of users and go to where I got this from, which is index. And I can actually make that the default list of users. So if I put this in here, I don't have to say const anymore. And this is the default list of users that will load. Okay, I just finished refreshing. We set up the default users. Let's try this again. Lance, random picture, sign up. Users.map. So we're passing it to the sidebar. In the sidebar, we're getting the users. I guess before we map stuff out, let's console log what users. Okay, hit refresh. I commented out the map for now. Let's just see if we can get a user created. Let's just do Lance, random, sign. Amazing. Okay, so that works. Let's go. That's a really funny picture. Let's go see what is loaded. If I press refresh, there's a new user created? No new user created, which is weird. API resolved without sending a response. This may result in stalled request. Oh, that's for fetch users, but where is my create user? All right, let me just double check my create user. I believe that's in sign up. That would be smart to probably call create user. So let me just do that. Okay, let's try something. I just want to make sure it's running create user when we do on submit, create user. Yep, okay, so it's running on submit. What I want to know is if it's actually running this. What we could do is go to the API route, console.log, in console.log here, creating, and I can also do this one, console.log, signing up. This one will be lowercase, signing up. So if I see this one, that means the create user is running. If I see the other one, that means this means we're actually creating one. So let's see if that works. I'll just refresh this one more time. Try again, random, sign up. Did we create a user? I don't know. Let me check my console. Okay, we got signing up. We got 2 undefined. Cannot read properties of reading value. Let's go check out what this means. We didn't see our console log for creating a user, so maybe there's something here. Cannot read property of reading value. Is there any value? There's no value here, so it's probably within this. So we have, there's value here, but this should be coming from the event. Okay, maybe as a temporary solution, we should put this as just URL because we have access to it. So I'll just hit save and let's try this again. All right, so one more time. Let's random sign up. Let's take a look. Okay, we got, didn't see my console log again. Failed with the status of internal server error. That's interesting. So we weren't able to create a user for some reason. All right, so I just double check the spelling and make sure that the schema is the same. I put this back to event.target URL.value. Let me just try it one more time. So I'm gonna hit refresh. Okay, so it's asking me to log in once again. Lance here, random, sign up. Oh, might know the idea. I might see the problem now. Whoops. We have a content type here. Let's see if that fixes it. Okay, did I do that somewhere else? No, but that will definitely help our issue. So let's try that. Let's give that a try. And I think one more thing that I wanted to do in the API route itself, we have the signing up, fetch user, create user. Let's put a console log right here. Okay, cool. One more time. Let's do Lance random sign up, inspect element. Not sure if that was from before or after, but we can just always check here. Nope, no documents of this type. All right, back to the drawing board. All right, so after a couple of testing, I console logged URL and that's known to be working. So I don't see why not this shouldn't be working, because when I console logged event.target.url.value, I got undefined. So let's just try URL. Save that. I'll save it like this, take out the console log. And now let's try this again. And while I'm here, I think what I want to do too is let's find that index. So I'm going to do index. And the reason why user is undefined is because this doesn't have an S. So there we go. That's another thing. All right, let's try it. So I want to do Lance sign up, inspect element, failed to load. Okay, so there's no value error anymore, but we're still seeing a status of 500, which means we have to go to create user and let's just see what's going on here. All right, so I took this some time to just read every line and fix up any typos. So if I refresh this, we should be good to go now. So let's just do this for old time's sake. Profile image, random, sign up, crossing my fingers. Let's take a look. Okay, no 500 error so far. Fetch users isn't working because I took that out. Okay, hey, there we go. Finally, so we have a user. So let's see if that's me. Yep, my wallet address and my profile picture. Very nice. Cool, so it looks like our routes are finally starting to work, guys. All I need to do now is go into, I believe it's the right side. Yep, so I'm gonna do Control B, right sidebar. We're console logging users and we're getting 3 users. That's the default. We need to be running get users. And I'm actually gonna go back. What was I saying again? Yeah, right sidebar, get users. All right. So to get started with this, go into the right sidebar. And I think I took out the map. I did. And if I were to bring this back out and then save, there you go. So that's our static one, but we should see something for this. So it says API resolved without sending a response for API fetch users. So let's take a look at that. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I need to set up the status for this. I got too excited, guys. So what we want to do is after the query, we want to store this sanity. We want to store this in a variable. I'm going to call it sanity response equals await client.fetch query. Okay, let's put this over here. And essentially we made the query variable and what I want to query, but I didn't fetch the actual query itself. So let's do that. Let's do a res.status 200.send, then do a message of success. And for data, we put the sanity response in there. Cool. All right. I think that should be it. We actually have a response now. So let's try this setup again. Let's make another user. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do Lance again. And it shouldn't actually make another user because it's going to depend on my wallet account. And there's my contacts. There we go. So the contacts is working. We're actually querying all the users as our contacts. There's me. Nice. All right, guys. How do you like that? All of our Sanity database is up and running. We're able to generate new users. We can pull all the users in your contacts. You can even set up a query if you don't want to see to not get yourself and get everybody else. But other than that, this is the full app. Like, you're able to create posts and comments on chain, and we are in. The only thing that's left to do now is I'm gonna show you guys how to deploy to Netlify. So let's open up our terminal. And what we can do here is do a Netlify init. Give this a couple seconds. All right, and we want to create and configure a new site. I'm going to do that. Site name, Facebook, and let's do -sol. Is that available? Nice. Cool. And we should do a yarn run build because we are using yarn, and the current directory is the local one. Okay, press enter. Yep, we have to install the Next.js plugin, and let's say yes to this. Cool, so we got our deploy key. I already linked my Netlify to GitHub way before. Now we can just do a git push so we can trigger the new site build. Okay, what we can do now is actually go onto Netlify. There's our Facebook SOL. Get deployed, see it's building, and let's just take a look. I'm gonna let this build out and I'll show you guys what's up. And the cool thing about Netlify, you can also preview your deployments, but it looks like it's already live. So what we can do, scroll to the top, click on the site overview, and you're done. Look at this. We got the Facebook. It's all there and deployed. You can literally send this link to your friends and they can create users and they can create posts and leave comments as long as they have a Phantom wallet and some Solana. You can do it and store those posts on chain. So that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy, and be sure to be on the lookout for more Solana videos, more Ethereum videos, and more. Click on that build space link and claim your NFT to prove that you completed your project with us and Build Space. And if you guys are wondering how to do that, when you click the link, you're going to sign up with your email and go ahead and connect your MetaMask account and make sure it's connected to the Polygon mainnet. Once you do, just hit the mint button, sign that transaction, and there you go. So that's going to be it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.